Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome to the Mississippi Farm to School Network's Mississippi Farm to ECE Institute virtual lesson number 1. Today, we are ideally starting to think about building our Farm to ECE dream teams. We're going to do a little resource mapping, and we're going to learn about gardening, specifically related to early child care and education spaces. We're going to get started in just a little bit, probably about 1 more minute. I'm so grateful you all are here. If you want to take this minute to stretch, refresh coffee, get you some water, do that. I'm a huge proponent of that. Got my coffee that has a really silly little saying on it. It's too early for you to say things. And I generally am not that person. I'm one of those annoying morning people. All right, y'all. I think it has slowed down in terms of folks joining us. Now, I know that we're hosting this from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And if you work in an ECE space, that tends to be the busiest part of your day outside of drop off and pickup. So we are offering this as a recording, but those of you who are attending in person and will be attending throughout this session today will get a 4-hour certificate. So if you know anybody that would like the recording, feel free to send it on after I get that to y'all after this. So let's go ahead and begin. Welcome, welcome. My name is Eddie Dingus. My pronouns are she, they, and I support the Mississippi Farm to School Network as the Farm to Early Care and Education Specialist. I've spent a little over a decade in ECE spaces, and about 7 of those years as a director of a preschool and school that served children 18 months to 12 years. So I feel like I've had my boots on the ground a little bit. And I hope that as we talk about these things today, you feel like they resonate with you and your experiences. But I know that we've got a number of folks on the call that are not in ECE spaces. So we've got folks that are farmers or producers. We have folks that teach older children. We've got folks from all across every sector. So welcome to everyone. I hope that you're able to get all kinds of information out of this Farm to ECE Institute. So you can see now I'm sharing my screen with the agenda. We're going to go over this agenda a little bit later during the actual session. But for right now, I'm going to turn off my video because I get a little laggy. So you'll be hearing my voice. And we're going to switch over to sharing our presentation. In the meantime, if you would, drop your name, your title, your organization, and where you are in the chat. That'd be great. All right, friends, it should be loading. If you're not able to see this, do let me know. So, because we've got a number of folks, but I think it's a smaller group than I was anticipating, which makes all the sense in the world. We're going to do a little introduction exercise, but before that, we're going to 1 second. I'm trying to figure out. I'm having a little. There we go. Oh no, we're skipping ahead. My sweet computer is doing its best. So before we do a little introduction session, we're going to go over the agenda. Okay, so after we get to know one another and we've got a little an activity planned for you, we're going to talk about the Mississippi Farm to School Network, Our team, we do have two of our team members, including myself, on the call today, as well as our programs, some of our ongoing programs I'd love to be able to share with y'all. And then we're going to talk about what is Farm to ECE. I imagine many of you know or have been participating in Farm to ECE programming, but I think it's always good to come back to the mission in whatever work you do. So we're going to be talking about what is Farm to ECE, what makes that up, what are the pillars. We're also going to be talking about the benefits of Farm to ECE. I think sometimes we're sold on what the benefits of Farm to ECE are, but it's good to write down notes for when you're talking to people in your community that you may need to gauge for support, right? We'll talk about the benefits, and then we'll talk about why host a Farm to ECE Institute, okay? Then we're going to do something I like to call an asset or resource mapping worksheet. Now, this is a time, it's going to be about a 20-minute activity. This is a time where you can get up, walk around, do your own thing, and then come back. But if you want a little more guided instruction when it comes to the worksheet, you can stay online and you can go through the worksheet with me. And this worksheet helps us brainstorm the resources in our area that could support our Farm to ECE journey, programming, and dreams. Finally, we're going to move into the Mississippi State Department of Health regulations. Many child care centers are, under licensure. Now, there are in-home providers that, don't have to follow licensure regulations, but they're still best practice. So we're going to be going over MSDH and Farm to ECE. What does that intersection look like for regulations? And then we're going to do a little team building exercise. So we're not going to be doing a team building exercise necessarily on the call unless you find somebody that can support your Farm to ECE dreams. But we are certainly going to brainstorm together those players in your community, players in your organization that can support your Farm to ECE goals. We're going to talk a little bit about, what that looks like as a team, of these players, what are their job responsibilities? And then we're going to take a lunch break. And our lunch break, again, is about a half an hour. And so that is a time where, if we had elevator music, we'd cue the elevator music and you'd be able to leave and go do what you need to do. That's going to be at around 11:05 to about 11:30. And then after 11:30, we're going to go through our Gardening 101 as it relates to Farm to ECE spaces. And we'll wrap up the Gardening 101 lesson with talk about future virtual lessons, making sure that you save the date for virtual lesson number 2 of the Institute. We're going to talk a little bit about the Mississippi Farm to School Week Challenge and how you can get involved. I'm going to share out some resources for y'all that you can dig into today when I send the follow-up email that shares out this recording and other items. And then we'll get to some Q&A. But as we move along, I'd like to do Q&A as we get to breaks, okay? All right. Welcome to those of you who have just joined us. Thank you so much for making the time to come on and participate as a student of the Farm to ECE Institute virtual lesson number 1. I believe we've asked some folks to participate in the chat and to let us know their name, title, pronouns if you choose, the organization that you work with, and where you are. But right now, we're going to do a shout out. Yeah, we're going to do a shout out. So as y'all know, or you may not know, there are multiple regions, geographical regions in the state of Mississippi. And we are, after all, the Mississippi Farm to School Network. So we are working statewide. And something that is really incredible to us is being able to work in all of these different regions and have touchstones in each community that can tell us what they need regionally, right? Because it changes, right? I myself am in the rolling hills in North Mississippi, and what we might need in the rolling hills is very, very different from what those of you on the coast may need, right? Not just when it comes to gardening, but to all manner of things. So, what we're going to do is I am going to call out a region. If you claim that region, and I'm trying to use some Mississippi language, y'all. If you claim that region, I want you to shout it out in the chat. And the idea here is that you're not only letting us know where you're from, but others are able to locate themselves near you. And we all know that everybody on this call is engaged in farm to ECE work in some way. They're interested. So you've got already a built-in group of support in your region. Okay, so let's try this out. If you claim the rolling hills in Mississippi, that's North Mississippi, but not the Delta. If you claim the rolling hills, let us know in the chat with your fave emoji. You can also just say, me here, present. Love to see it. All right, we've got two folks, and these folks are doing wonderful work. Hannah and Angel, y'all would love each other. And if you like, take a note of who is in your area. Maybe reach out to them in the future. You can always contact me and say, hey, there was somebody on the call who was in my area who was interested in Farm to ECE. Could you connect me with them? Happy to do it. All right. Now, if you claim the Mississippi Delta, shout it out in the chat with your fave emoji or just a little here. Nicole got the 3 emojis. Big same, Nicole. Our associate director, Sydney Bush Turnipseed, is in Sumner, so in Tallahatchie County. So, Nicole, if you ever want to join up with Sydney, she is doing all kinds of amazing community work out in the Delta in Tallahatchie County. We've also worked, Tawanda also is claiming the Delta. So Nicole and Tawanda, y'all can connect if you're interested. And then also shout out to one of our program participants from, we started working together in 2025, and that is the West Tallahatchie ICS Head Start. They have a blossoming Farm to ECE program, and their director, Angie Jennings, is just phenomenal to work with. So if you ever want to get involved or find people that have had their boots on the ground, some great people to do it. And of course, you can get in touch with me to ask to get in touch. If you claim the Pine Belt, Piney Woods, the Pine region, use your fave emoji in the chat. I used to be from the Pines, but now I'm in the rolling hills, just outside of the capital region for me. I was from Scott County. It's where I went to public school. I don't know if we've got anybody from the Pines. Okay, from the Pine Belt. Good to know. Maybe we need to focus on the Pine Belt area. If you claim Jackson, or you're close to the Mississippi River, not in the Delta. Yeah, there we go. Reverend Miles, Director Sylvester, love to see it. Yolanda, Amy, Etta Marie. Oh, we got a lot of representation from the Capitol. That's really cool, y'all. So it looks like we've got a really rich cohort working in and around Jackson or near the Mississippi River, y'all take note of each other's names. If you want to get in touch with one another, let me know. And then shout out to Director Sylvester, Nancy Sylvester at Global Connections Learning Center in Jackson. They are one of our Mississippi Sprouts 2 program participants. We're really excited to have them. So glad you're here. All right. And then finally, where my coasties at? I love a coastie. I've always loved a coastie. Never lived on the coast, but Regina with the dolphin emoji. We love. Oh, Mary Jo. Mary Jo Wilson is coming. Moving to the coast. Mary Jo is our communications and marketing lead at the Mississippi Farm to School Network. She is phenomenal, such a thoughtful partner, community partner, and she is moving to the coast soon. So, Regina, take note. We've got some MFSN folks in the coast house. All right, y'all. Well done. Okay. So I hope you were able to find some people to connect with in that exercise. And now I want to introduce you to our team. The Mississippi Farm to School team, we are a team of 4 mighty people. We work across the state of Mississippi. And we are Director Umi Jenkins, Associate Director Sydney Bush Turnipseed. Umi is on the coast. Sydney is in the Delta and sometimes on the coast. Mary Jo, who's on the call, our marketing and outreach lead. She is moving soon to the coast. And then you got little old me up in North Mississippi. And I am the Farm to Early Care and Education Specialist with the Mississippi Farm to School Network. It's such a pleasure getting to do this work with and for y'all. So if you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. I love to hear from you. All right, so here's a little bit about our programming at the Mississippi Farm to School Network, just so you know what's going on. We have Mississippi Sprouts, which is a farm to ECE initiative. Garden Beds, a garden bed distribution, which has since closed, but we're quite proud of it because it's really shared so much of the momentum driving farm to ECE and farm to school across the state. And then our youth leadership program, which you can, I believe you can join, you can hop in at any time. So if you have children K through 12 and you're interested in a virtual learning opportunity that centers food justice, gardening, food systems, agriculture, conservation, and environmentalism, this is the program for you. So Mississippi Sprouts, a farm to ECE program, I facilitate this program. It's funded through the Healthy Kids, Healthy Futures Technical Assistance Program, which is led by Nemours Children's Health, which is a hospital all up and down the East Coast. And they have given us the funding to help us work with Head Starts and other ECEs throughout the state to catalyze and grow their farm to ECE programming by offering them implementation funds so that they can realize their dreams and they don't have those like budgetary restraints. And we also offer technical support. Generally, the funding period is only about 6 to 9 months. But what we intend to do throughout that time is to build a relationship that can continue far past the end of that project period. So we've been really, really fortunate to run this program twice. Last year, we connected with 5 sites, West Tallahatchie Head Start in Tallahatchie County, Crenshaw Head Start in Panola County, and then the 8 Head Starts on the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians Reservation with their Department of Early Childhood. We were also fortunate to work very, very closely with the Institute of Community Services, which manages 20 Head Starts throughout North Mississippi in the Delta. And we're looking to build on that this year. We have started our Sprouts 2 programming. And like I said, Director Nancy Sylvester with Global Connections Learning Center in Jackson is one of those program recipients. And we're so excited to work with them. If you ever want to see Farm to ECE happening and joyful, just contact Director Sylvester. It is such a beautiful sight to see and to just listen to her witness. Their programming is incredible. Next, of course, we have our garden bed distribution program. And what this was is we received an in-kind donation of hundreds of garden beds from some kind folks that were going out of business. And we turned this donation from them into a distribution program where we were able to offer ECE programs, after-school programs, K through 12, high schools, any educational program that applied. And we were able to provide for, received between 1 and 3 garden beds, a $150 gift card to the supply store of their choice, and then TA. So that technical assistance piece is a big part of MFSN's mission so that folks could, continue or grow their farm to school or farm to ECE programming. As of fall 2025, we had served more than 116 Mississippi learning programs. And I think by now we're approaching 200, which is really exciting. And then finally, our youth leadership program. This is a 10-month virtual opportunity for K through 12 students who live in Mississippi to learn more about food sovereignty, food justice, explore careers in agriculture, establish connections with their fellows that are interested in this, and develop leadership skills, all online in an inclusive space. We meet on Mondays starting at 4:30. We do have a few whole classrooms that participate off and on. And then we've got some classrooms who just, share it out to their students' families to see if the students can come on. Our most recent meeting was a cook-along or a meet and learn to cook with a chef. And what we do is we try to point out local items to Mississippi and cook with those, as well as try to help kids understand what makes a nourishing, healthy, budget-friendly choice, right? So these are all things that we try to do through this program. If you're interested, do hit us up. You can contact me, Eddie at MississippiFarmToSchool.org for more information, or you can contact our marketing and outreach lead, Mary Jo, at maryjo@farmtoschool.org. Mary Jo, if you drop your email in the chat, that would be amazing. And of course, y'all can reach out to us anytime. That's our job. We have really cool jobs where we get to support you. All right. So before I ask you to put your favorite emoji in the chat, I want everybody to take a second because this is going to be quite a long workshop, virtual lesson, whatever you'd like to call it. We are going until 1 p.m., y'all, which means we've got to be mindful about our bodies. If we sit too long, we start to stiffen up, we start to disengage. And I just want to make sure that we're all coming together with the intention of learning and sharing in this cooperative, creative space. Okay. So before you put your favorite emoji in the chat for these questions, what I want you to do is I want you to take a second, and I know it can be weird, especially when we're on Zoom. If you need to turn your camera off, do. But I want you to reach back behind your body as much as you can, and then just let out a big yawn. And you'll find that when you start to yawn, you're like, this feels silly. I didn't have to yawn. But then as you complete the yawn, you'll kind of feel yawning has been shown to wake us up, right? To get that breath going. So do about 2 or 3 yawns and stretches, and then we'll come back to fave emoji. I'm doing it too. That's why I'm quiet. Got to be mindful and thoughtful when we're sitting in these desk chairs for so long. I myself will just mess my neck up by doing too much. All right. Now, after you've taken that big breath and stretch, if you would come back. And I'm going to ask you if there is a gardener in your family. Yeah. I didn't know I could yawn on command either, Tawanda, until like yesterday when I was trying out this grounding exercise. But apparently, if you're like, if you're feeling sluggish or disengaged and you kind of need to get your brain to come back online, yawning on command helps you do it. It's really nice. Okay. All right. So if you have a gardener in your family, it counts if you're the gardener. If you spent time in a garden as a child, and or if you grow your own plants or garden these days, put your fave emoji in the chat. I'd love to see what we've all got in common here. Oh, I'm seeing lots of emojis. We love. Does anybody want to share? I'd love to hear from two folks about why you put Regina's emoji is great. Why you put an emoji in the chat. Can you share if you want to raise your hand or just come off mute? Tell us about the gardener in your family or the time you spent in a garden as a child or now. Let me see if
I
anybody.
can share.
Yeah, I would love to hear.
Yeah, this is Umi, Mississippi Farm School Network. And I remember watching my grandmother and her sister pick pecans in the yard and always had a garden, whether it was tomatoes or cucumbers or something. So when I was a teenager, I didn't much think about it in my 20s, but once I became older, I really appreciate growing your own food.
Yeah, there's a sense of real ownership that we get in growing our own food and pride and joy from growing our own food. Um, that it's hard to find when you're shopping in a grocery store, and that's something that Farm to ECE and Farm to School programming really seeks to do is to share that joy with others, especially young ones, because those first experiences are so impactful. Anybody else want to share about a gardener and their family or their time in a garden?
This is Nancy. I'd like to share.
Oh, I think we've got two.
Yeah. Let's see. I wanna hear y'all. We've got some time. So Director Sylvester, please go, and then I think we've got two others.
Okay. Well, my grandfather was a farmer. He owned a full entire street, and this is in Brookhaven, Mississippi. And as far as you could see, was just farmland. And they had all of the different vegetables, the fruit trees, the animals, and he had a booth set up where people could come and they made purchases from him. And that's how he made his living. And I didn't actually work the garden, but I was always there. I could always go out and pick things out of the garden or stand in the booth with him a lot of times during the summer. So I learned a lot about enjoying fresh fruits and vegetables when I was growing up. And we did the canning in the jars, and that was our responsibility to wash all those jars, had them sanitized so that they could put the fruits and vegetables in jars for the winter.
It sounds so joyful and magical, and it makes me think of two things. One, the joy of, getting to explore a garden space as a child. It feels a little bit like you're in a children's book, and to get to see one of your elders making a living out of that joyful process is such a I mean, I imagine that's like something that impresses upon your heart, and you carry that forward in adulthood. Um, so it makes me think a little bit later when I share the resources, we have a virtual farm tour of a farm in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, called Galloway Family Farm. They're a 3-generation Black owned and operated farm down on the coast. And it's a great way to get kids who might not otherwise see a farm to get them onto a farm. So I'll be sharing that link to that video with y'all. Yeah. And then let's see, Regina. Regina's got her hand raised. We'd love to hear about the gardener or time in a garden.
When I was growing up, my mom, we had a backyard garden, and I can remember sitting on the front porch shucking peas with her. We made jams, we made pickles. I don't remember why my mom started that garden. I just remember being a part of it, and I can remember her telling me, "Go outside and pick a cucumber and bring it in to me." And I remember she fried eggplant, and I remember thinking, "Gross! Why are we eating this?" So I remember those times, and I think that's kind of what led me to want to have that garden at my preschool. That has going nowhere, but that's why I'm here to learn more.
Well, I think so often, when we learn about food systems, a lot of what we're learning is to embrace the kind of stop and start of it all, right? To embrace the flow of it. So maybe it's going nowhere right now, but it sounds like you've come to the right place in order to gas it up for the future. Angel, I know you came off mute earlier. Did you want to share something? I'd love to hear.
Yes, I know when we were growing up, we were poor. And so we had a garden to supplement, our food. And of course, my grandmother, she farmed or she grew up on a farm and they had to milk the cows and all of that. And then my great grandfather, which was her daddy, there's a picture, it's this old black and white picture, and it was this long bench that he made. And he would grow watermelons and slice them up. And I'm talking, there were like 20 of them, and the kids that were also poor that lived out in that area in North Mississippi near Tishomingo, they would get to come by and everybody got a piece of watermelon on their way home from school. And I just always thought that was the sweetest thing. And that's just kind of one of our family pictures that's really prized to us. And so I like to teach my kids here, because, we have the school farm here, how to grow their own food to supplement, you know, their food in their house. And I've had a lot of football players that will go out there and say, "Hey, can I pick a cucumber and take it to have after practice?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I just thought that was the coolest thing that they wanted to do that.
Yeah, that's so cool. If y'all ever want to see a big, beautiful garden, you got to go. You got to get in touch with Angel. She's just got this amazing program up in the rolling hills. And then I wanted to share too. Speaking of that football player picking a cucumber, I don't know if many of you know this, but we lose nutrients when we get vegetables shipped to us on a truck, fruit shipped to us on a truck. So, the richest time to eat from the garden, the healthiest time is to eat from the garden, like right outside your house, right? You pick that and boom, it is chock full of all that nourishing stuff. And then I also wanted to share that in the chat, Mary Jo has shared the link to our virtual farm tour at Galloway Family Farm. If you want to use that in your classrooms, we tried to be mindful about screen time, so we kept it to 10 minutes. And we think it's relatively understimulating, although it is a beautiful, beautiful garden. So it's good for children of all walks of life. So thank you all so much for participating in that activity. Love to hear from you and all that we have in common. So, our goal in Farm to ECE is to create those memories in all the kids, to help them be able to enjoy garden time too, just like we did. So what is Farm to ECE? It increases access to local foods, edible gardens, and food and agriculture education for our youngest learners. Farm to ECE enhances the quality of educational experiences in all types of ECE settings, with benefits that parallel the goals and priorities of the ECE community, including an emphasis on experiential learning opportunities, parent and community engagement, and lifelong health and wellness for children, families, and caregivers. We borrowed this language from our friends over at the Policy Equity Group, their Farm to ECE Metrics Guide. But I can speak to this. We see folks operating Farm to ECE programs at every level, and it is so incredible to see the intersection of the learning standards and Farm to ECE best practice, right? Interestingly, last year, Head Start, National Head Start Association, really got behind the National Farm to ECE movement and developed an entire compendium of resources related to Farm to ECE and the intersection of Head Start learning standards, so that you aren't in your ECE classroom thinking, man, I've got to do a lesson plan specifically in the garden to meet my Farm to ECE goals. But instead, you can take your standing lesson plans and pivot them to happen in the garden so that you're learning about science, math, language, sensory, fine motor, gross motor, all in the garden. And it's really an amazing tool that I'll be sharing with y'all in the forthcoming email. Farm to ECE is cool, y'all. Super, super inclusive. Now, what are the core elements of Farm to ECE? So when I say core elements, these are the pillars, right? So you might have one or two going on, but it isn't until we see all three in practice in a program, in an ECE program, that's when we start to see the needle change, the needle move toward impacting healthier futures, okay? When you see all three of these at work, that's when you start to see children learning healthier habits, like learning to love an eggplant, learning to know that, if they eat a warm watermelon on a summer day, that tastes so good. And they develop that sense of freshness that takes them through adulthood, where they're choosing more fresh vegetables and fruits and produce, which is going to impact their health long term, right? So those three pillars are something you probably all are already doing if you're in an ECE space, is nutrition and agricultural education, okay? So talking about when you're at the lunch table, this is healthy because having posters up in your classroom that talk about different items that can be grown in your state, out of your state, but can be eaten for health, right? Talking about farmers, reading books about farmers and gardening, okay? These are all pieces of that nutrition and ag education. So all of us are already doing this in some way. So pat yourselves on the back. You've already got one pillar down, and we can help beef up that pillar. We can help support that pillar here at Mississippi Farm to School. The second pillar, and this I think is the most exciting pillar, but it can be tough, especially when you're on your own, which is why we're going to talk about how to build a Farm to ECE dream team later. So if you got to call out sick one day, you can call on Mr. Ricky, the janitor, to help you out in the garden, okay? So the second pillar are school gardens, right? Those can be indoor, they can be outdoor, they can be hydroponic, whatever they need to be, but a place where the children are able to grow food, okay? Not just flowers, although that's adorable. We love a bean sprout in the window, okay? But when they have an opportunity during the growing season, they are able to grow food and then try it. That's a big deal, right? Because then they're making that connection between, oh, if I grow it, I can eat it. And if I grow a lot, I can supplement, right? And if I eat a lot of it, then maybe I won't have heart disease at 35, right? So And then finally, and this I think can be the trickiest piece, although for some programs, this is the piece that comes more naturally, and the school garden piece is a little more difficult. So it depends on, what it is that your organization has set out to do as to whether or not which pillar, makes more sense, right? I think the school gardens piece, it can be a sustainability question, and the procurement piece is often a budget question, right? Financial sustainability question. But procurement is that final pillar. It is a big word for how are we getting food, local, fresh food, into our students' meal program? How are we getting that on the table? And best practice is that students are introduced or have the opportunity to eat local, fresh food twice or more each week in their school meal program during the growing season. Okay, that's best practice. But if you can have a taste test during circle time, that's huge. That's procurement. You can go down to the farmer's market. You can pull some of your cucumbers out of your yard in the back that you've grown, whatever. You have procured local food and you've brought it to your students' table. And that's that final pillar, okay? Because then they're starting to sample that food and develop a taste for it. And I don't know if y'all know this, but a child, and maybe even an adult, but this research says that a child has to see a new food anywhere from 2 to 47 times before they'll try it. Okay. Now, generally, and I think this is mostly for neurotypical children, so children that don't necessarily have an ADHD, autism diagnosis, something like that. But for neurotypical children, we're looking at between 4 to 17 times that you have to introduce a child to a new food before they'll try it. But that number can grow if you've got a child that has sensory needs. They may need to see that food again and again and again to know that it's not scary and that it's worth trying, okay? And I don't know about y'all, but I've known people that are like in their 30s that still think some foods are scary. So so it is always good to get that local food, that fresh food on a table as often as you can so that they can see it. All right, so what are the benefits? We've talked a lot, but what are the benefits of farm to ECE programming? We like to say kids win, schools win, families win, farmers win, communities win, okay? It's an evidence-based approach, right? That means that people have done lots and lots of smart, cool scientists have done studies on the impacts of farm to ECE, and they continue to find that it is a positive thing to introduce to young children so that it can follow them. All right. So, farm to ECE is an evidence-based approach. It teaches children where their food comes from. We call this place-based education. We've talked about them, or, you've heard about the Mississippi brain drain. How cool to teach your kids who live here in Mississippi to be proud of the Mississippi sweet potato, right? If they leave Mississippi and they may say, oh man, I miss a Mississippi sweet potato. I miss a Mississippi blueberry. I miss a Mississippi Smith County watermelon, right? That's a beautiful thing. And it gives them pride about where they're from. It improves their bodily awareness, getting outside, fine motor, gross motor in the garden. It enhances hands-on learning. And if you have a chaotic class, or if you have a child that is disengaged in the classroom, bringing them into the garden where there are lots of rich sensory experiences is a great way to re-engage. There's this beautiful story I learned last year. A little boy, about 4 years old, recently diagnosed with autism. He was never engaged in classroom time, and instead he spent a lot of his time in the bathroom playing in the water. He loved water. He liked to wash his hands. He liked to wash toys, but he was never a part of class time until one day his teacher brought him outside along with his class, and they started filling in the garden beds with dirt, planting, watering, and this little boy fell in love with the garden. And he, by virtue of Farm to ECE programming, got involved and engaged in what his class was doing and their lessons. It's a great way to engage all kinds of different learners. Farm to ECE expands the size of your learning space. If you have an outdoor learning space or garden, you can go out there and learn too. It develops essential life skills like teamwork, leadership, and critical thinking. It provides more opportunities for community engagement and place-based education. So not only are they learning about Smith County watermelons, but they're also learning about their farmer down the street. They learn that they can become a farmer too. They learn about different agricultural careers that are open to them. And a lot of times farmers look like them. They look like the students that you serve. And that is inspiring because representation is so important. Farm to ECE programming supports the local economy. And finally, it encourages healthier eating habits and creates healthier futures. So I'm glad you all are bought into this because it is such an awesome opportunity to support your kids and their lifelong health. So what is the Mississippi Farm to ECE Institute? I'm just going to read a little bit to y'all. The goal of the Institute is to support the sustainability and far-reaching impact of farm to school and farm to ECE resources for schools, food service, and educators, and however you might connect to those groups. Through an approach that engages participants, that's y'all, in action planning, long-term coaching, and connection to a community of peer learners, institutes that incorporate and serve Farm to ECE aim to build the knowledge, skills, and culture of providers who are advancing the Farm to ECE movement. That's y'all. We are pioneers. Be proud. We're making this happen. You know, Mississippi may be 50th on a lot of lists, but at the Farm to School Network and on our Farm to ECE Coalition, we consider a Mississippi where we're tops on the list when it comes to early care and education, particularly Farm to ECE and Farm to School. We're set up for it. We're an agricultural state, y'all. We can do this together. As the Farm to ECE movement motivates early childhood education providers to engage in these activities, we believe it's crucial that we strengthen this effort through investments in that's y'all's professional development, which is why we're all here for virtual lesson number 1. So we have bi-monthly opportunities to participate in the Farm to ECE Institute. Those virtual lessons are 2 through 4, okay? So on April 16th, and if you forget the dates, that's fine. It's just the third Thursday of every other month, okay? April 16th, we're going to talk about procurement, and that's going to be from 3 to 4:30. I know we've got a lot of teachers on the call, and I'm hoping that is a more helpful time to join. So procurement or local food purchasing, how are we getting that fresh food on the table? That's April 16th. On June 18th, right before Juneteenth, we're going to talk about community engagement. How do we engage our community in our Farm to ECE dreams? And on August 20th, we're going to talk about advocacy. What can we do to advocate for a Mississippi State leadership that's bought in to the benefits of Farm to ECE and Farm to School? How can we convince them that this is a cool thing that we're doing and it's great for our state? If you attend 2 or more of these virtual lessons, you will be a graduate of the 2026 Mississippi Farm to ECE Institute online, And we will celebrate you and your program on our social media during Farm to School Month, which is in October. Okay. So make sure you tune in. You will get certificates for participation for each one you join. And I aim to have those out to all of you within 2 days after. So you can upload those and you don't have to wait so long to get those certificates of participation. Okay. Now, we are going to do a little exercise called Let's Map Our Resources. This is our asset or resource mapping exercise. But before we get into that, let's take 5 minutes to just break, walk around, go to the bathroom, get some water, and then come back and we will start the exercise. I'll see you all at 9:58.
Hey, Miss Eddie, this is Selma. How are you?
We just hopped on a 5-minute break, and Eddie will return at 9:58.
Great. Yeah, y'all take your time. I'll wait till everybody's back on.
Hey, Miss Eddie, this is Selma. How are you?
Hey, Miss Thelma. I'm so
I
happy to
am
hear
so
from
sorry.
you.
I just get so hung up on this computer and this technology. This is not me. I need my hands in the dirt, not on this thing. But
Girl,
I
I
found
I
this space
understand.
and we're trying to get on. And I'm actually trying to get my son on too so he can listen in and know what's going on because he's going to be my backbone and helping me to get all these things going really, really well and
Love
not
it.
just going. So I'm trying to get out the whole family on so that they can listen and have an idea about my vision coming to pass with all of this. So thank you for your
Oh,
patience.
oh, yeah. And listen, I'm going to send out a recording via email after this
Uh-huh.
so that y'all can watch it as a video. That might be a little bit easier
Great,
too.
great, great. Well, I'll let
Mhm.
them know then, and we can just all watch it together.
Okay, and you let me know if you need anything. I'll get in touch with you soon too.
Thank you, baby.
You got it, boo. Okay, let's see. All right, my loves, we're going to come back in 1 minute. 1 minute, and we'll start this exercise. Okay, everybody, welcome back. We're going to start this activity. The activity is our asset or resource mapping worksheet. You should have received a copy of this, either a PDF that you can print and you can write on with a pen or a pencil, or an Excel or Google sheet that you can open up and edit in the document on your computer. You're also welcome to work ahead if you feel confident in doing this exercise on your own, or you can just listen as I talk through it with y'all. So this worksheet is an opportunity for everyone to think about who in your community could support your farm to ECE goals. Wherever your programming might be, you still need folks to support you. And the reason why support is so necessary is because this kind of work takes a lot. And so if you need to take the day off and it's July, you need to find somebody that can water your plants, right? Both literally and figuratively. So let's talk through this. And I'm going to fill it out as we move along. And then y'all can fill yours out in your own time or alongside with me. So I'm going to fill this out as the Mississippi Farm to School. What am I going to be? I'm going to be the Mississippi Farm to ECE Coalition. That's my organization name. And then today's date. And then we're going to come down here and we're going to brainstorm some partners, some possible partners or organizations based on these little themes in gray. Okay. So we've got educational organizations, farming organizations, funding organizations, possible partners, so folks that we already know support farm to ECE in our area. And these can be individual people. Often in ECE programs, these are grandparents. They have a little bit more time. It depends on the community, but often grandparents have a little bit more time. Or agencies that you know already support farm to ECE. So Head Starts or your local farmers market. Social and cultural organizations, so faith-based organizations, your local temple, your local church, nonprofits, places where you can host farm to ECE activities or events and open it up to the community, and other resources, right? So neighborhood organizations, just some things that you feel like don't fit within those other categories, okay? So let's begin. I am going to ask for folks to share this out a little bit later, and I think I'm going to freeze it up to this line so we can work a little more efficiently. Okay, so in education, a partner, sorry, I've got some folks entering the waiting room. Okay. In education, a potential partner For the Mississippi Farm to ECE Coalition, of course, we already have the Mississippi Farm to School Network, right? And I've got this in here because you can already count on us, y'all. Keep that in your personal brainstorms. But in education, who is someone I know in educational fields that would support our Farm to ECE programming? Well, I can think of the Institute of Community Services. They run 20 Head Starts throughout North Mississippi and the Delta. Okay. And I know that they are bought into Farm to ECE programming. So my point of contact there is Marquita Jones. I would share her contact info here. And then her strengths. So as we fill this out, this is something that we like to call a longevity document or a sustainability document. You keep this around, so as other resources occur to you, you can put them all here. If you are my age or older, you know what a Rolodex is. This is kind of like your Farm to ECE Rolodex. You can always go back to this resource mapping worksheet and be like, oh yeah, I haven't talked to Marquita yet. I haven't talked to that church yet. I can go to them and ask them for support in whatever I might need for my Farm to ECE program to succeed. So at the Institute of Community Services, some of the resources they have is they have a big meeting room with all kinds of virtual learning tools, like a screen, computers, a speaker, Wi-Fi. Amazing. Okay. They have that. My collaboration goals, maybe you don't have any collaboration goals for right now. You can leave it blank if you don't know what you want to do with this potential partner. But if you have something in mind, you can put it in this space, your collaboration goals. So my collaboration goals with the Institute of Community Services are to partner with a ECE childhood nutrition team to inform our work and resources, right? So because Marquita is the director of the Early Childhood Nutrition Program there at ICS, she can help to inform the trainings and resources that I offer to ECE providers. And she can also help me manage, let's see, they can help me manage or help me understand the Child and Adult Care Food Program. So this is a federal program that many ECEs take part in. All Head Starts receive funding through the CACFP. And what Marquita could help me do at ICS is she could help me understand the limitations of the Child and Adult Care Food Program as they relate to purchasing local food, right? Can I use that funding? So this actually might fit under funding as well. Limitations and opportunities of funding. Okay. So that helps me. Now I know when I go back to this Rolodex, oh, ICS is really into Farm to ECE. I can contact them should I need. Okay. So they're an educational space that could be a potential partner in support of my Farm to ECE goals. Then we're going to go down here to farms. Okay. What farms, farmers, CSAs, farmers markets, grocery stores, businesses, which of these could support my Farm to ECE program goals? These can be procurement goals, where you want to purchase items that you want to have in your meal program. These could be places where you want to bring your children on a field trip. These could be places where you ask someone to from the farm, a farmer, to come and visit your kids during circle time so that they can meet a real live farmer. And often farmers come prepared, y'all. Like they'll bring seeds to pass out to the kids or little treats that have been grown on the farm, maybe even bring a watermelon and cut it up and share that as a snack. There are all kinds of ways that you could potentially partner with a farm to support your farm to ECE goals. Now, I want to shout out Reverend DeAndre, who's on the call, or he was. Yes, Reverend DeAndre Miles. Are you there, Reverend Miles?
Yes, ma'am.
Hey, I want to put you on my resource map. Do you mind if I include you?
Not at all.
Okay, great. So we have Bill's Barn, right?
Yes, ma'am. Bell's Barn and Garden.
Bill's Barn and Garden. Now, Reverend Miles, would it be all right if others put you down?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So we have Reverend DeAndre Miles of Bill's Barn and Garden. And then we've got his contact info. What's your website, Reverend Miles?
It's gonna be kind of long.
That's okay. I got time.
But it's gonna be Bell's Barn Garden at wix.com / Jackson.
Got it. That's not bad. I've had worse. All right. So we've got your website, so we know how to find you and contact you. And a resource here. Could you tell us a little bit, Reverend Miles, about what you could offer to folks in support of their farm to ECE programming?
So we offer we have produce and poultry products. We also do we do offer farm tours and presentations as well. So agritourism.
We love. This is great. So y'all on the call, you've got someone who can support your farm to ECE program goals should you want to purchase local food, tour a farm. It sounds like they're located in and or around Jackson. Or if you want to invite someone to do a presentation, perhaps you could set something up. Would you be open to visiting schools and doing presentations, Reverend Miles?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. So we know our collaboration goals are to connect our students with local agriculture and careers. We love to see that. And this is such a great way to get your kids interested in what's going on in the food systems around them. And because they offer agritourism or opportunities to go and visit their farm, I'm sure they are set up. Do y'all have the capacity to offer meeting spaces, that kind of thing, Reverend Miles?
Yes. Right now everything is outdoors.
Meeting space, okay. And then you have farmer know-how, right? Farmer knowledge.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
Reverend Miles could help y'all talk through local food purchasing. This is great. I'm so glad you're on the call, Reverend Miles.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's my honor, our honor. And then finally, y'all, and this is not going to be relevant for every farm or producer that you want to partner with, but the Mississippi State Department of Health, which is our current licensing agency, it does say that best practice is that the farms from which you purchase local food or products and serve in your meal program, that they either are GAP certified, good agricultural practice, that's GAP certification, can be prohibitively expensive for small farmers, right? They may have a GAP certification, they may not. If they don't, that's okay. There's also a food safety plan. Oh, goodness. There's also a food safety plan checklist that you could use. And I'm not able to find the link right now, but we'll send it to you in that email that follows up. The food safety plan checklist, let's say you want to work with a farmer and you want to source what that farmer grows and use it in your meal program. If you have a food safety plan checklist, it's a 2-page document that you can send to your farmer to have them complete and sign, and then send you a copy that you can put in your MSDH binder or even a farm to ECE binder. So you have it on file and you can show it should your MSDH agent request to see it. But the food safety plan is a really great way to show that this farmer is holding themselves accountable to safety practices, but without having to spend all that money on a GAP certification. Okay. So you would indicate in this box whether or not that farmer has a food safety plan or GAP certification. Okay. Next, we have funding, right? So sometimes a program might have funding built in to their budget to support farm to ECE. Often, that program does not have funding built in to support farm to ECE. So it's important to brainstorm other donors, foundations, grants that could support your farm to ECE programming. Does anybody have any funding opportunities or just, places where you go to get funding or in-kind donations that you'd like to share about?
I do.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it, Angel.
First of all, Donors Choose, I think I've gotten about 65 or 70 grants through them. They're fantastic. And then Farm Bureau, Ag in the Classroom, they can do some. And then the Soil and Water Conservation District, I've gotten some through them. Those are the first 3 that come to mind.
Amazing. So Angel is hooking us up. We got Donors Choose, Farm Bureau.
And it's specifically Ag in the Classroom. You have to
Ag in the Classroom. Mm-hmm. Do you know if that's open to farm to ECE?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't know.
Okay. Well, we can always highlight it to check back. That's my homework for today. And then what was the final one that you shared, Angel?
Soil and Water Conservation Districts. I know Malia Tyus was in charge of that for DeSoto County, and she is not in that position anymore, but I know that there are, it's throughout the state.
Okay.
Like Mississippi. Well, and then there's also Mississippi State Extension Services. I'm trying to remember if you can get actual funding through them or not. Maybe not.
So, hey everybody, Laura Jane. So I'm actually sitting in today as True Care. I'm the new True Care community marketing representative, and we would have some availability to help those throughout the state as well. True Care is the new Medicaid plan, and that's what we're here for, is to assist in any way we can to make sure that our young people are growing up to be healthy. But to answer your question on extension, I'm a retired extension agent. And so, no, you can only get in-kind support from them. And I typed in there Master Gardeners because this has Master Gardeners just written all over it. And most counties do have a Master Gardener program through their extension office. And I would highly recommend you guys reaching out to extension, and also reach out to me with True Care. We have 3 representatives throughout the state. True Care is a Mississippi bound company. That's everybody who works for True Care is in Mississippi. So when you call that 1-800 number, you're going to be talking to someone in the Ridgeland office, not someone 5 states away. So we're here to help make our Mississippians as healthy as they can be. So anybody who wants my contact, I'll put it in the chat.
Laura Jane, thank you so much. Look at Angel and Laura Jane coming in clutch, y'all, with all the opportunities. We love to see it. And of course, we'll be talking a little bit about funding opportunities later on when we talk about gardening. But these are such great resources. Make sure you're capturing these in your resource map. So Laura Jane, if you could drop your contact info for True Care, that'd be great. I'm going to put it in our resource sheet. And I hope y'all will do that too. And then, Laura Jane, you also brought up master gardeners, and that brings us to possible partners or agencies that support farm to ECE in your area. This, of course, can also include individual volunteers, but like Laura Jane, MSU Extension Service is incredible. Their mission already aligns with the Farm to ECE mission, and they have all kinds of programming and resources that support you. What you would do is you would look for your county's point of contact and get in touch with them. You can go onto their website, just Google Mississippi MSU Extension Service, and you can find your extension agent. If one of my team is able to drop that in the chat, that would be great. They have all kinds of gardening resources, like a planting guide for what seeds to plant when, what food to harvest when, what you can make with these things. They even have a harvest of the month that you can share in your classrooms. And that goes with that nutrition and ag education piece. They have a harvest of the month. You can print it out. You can find a lot of different resources and put it up in your classroom. Okay. These are all kinds of things you can do. They also have, I believe they have a list of master gardeners, but they offer master gardening classes. So you yourself can become a master gardener, or somebody on your Farm to ECE Dream Team can become a master gardener. But these folks are certified. They know what they're doing in the garden, and they are a great resource to call on. So I'm going to put down Master Gardener in addition to MSU Extension Service, because you never know. You may have a Master Gardener in your community who's pumped about getting involved with your school or community gardening or Farm to ECE programming. Okay. All right. Thank y'all for that. So rich. Let me see if Laura Jean, if I've got your contact information. Oh, yep. Mary Jo has popped in the chat how to find your local MSU Extension agent. And then I'm also going to drop in Laura Jane's information here. Oh my goodness. Why not? Let's see.
Is my email address not showing up in the chat? I call myself putting it in there.
Yeah, you got it. I got it.
Okay.
Yep. Just put it in. Laura Jane. All right. And then we've got some social and cultural organizations, right? So for me, when I was first getting started, I knew that our local library would support Farm to ECE programming. So that is the Lafayette County Oxford Public Library. And that point of contact is head librarian Meredith Wolf. They have meeting space. They have gardening books that we can check out. They have regular events that we can partner with, all kinds of stuff. And one of our goals was to host an event together. Okay. So maybe you don't know if your local library is able to support your Farm to ECE goals, but you could sure enough put them in this area and then highlight them and do your due diligence to call them and check. My guess is at the very least, they know of some really, really great resources that they have in-house that they can share with you, to share with your students, your teachers, your community. Okay. At best, they may be able to work with you, support you in hosting events and getting people to come your way. Maybe they can post flyers if you want to fundraise through crowd funding. Maybe they can post flyers to help get more people interested in your Farm to ECE program. If you belong to a church, churches often have lots and lots of people that are willing to do service work. You can put your church, your temple, your mosque, whatever your faith-based organization might be, you could put your faith-based organization here and highlight it, and then make sure that you make a little note to go and check with them. Ask them, is this something that you might be willing to support? Maybe you don't have space for a garden at your ECE, but maybe this faith-based organization or this nonprofit that you can think of, maybe they have space and they can host the garden alongside you. And finally, other resources. What other resources do you think you might know? Do you know somebody who's a volunteer firefighter who might be willing to come and do all the heavy lifting stuff? Do you need somebody to build garden beds? Do you need somebody to lift heavy soil bags, right? What are some other organizations, people, resources you can think of that you can put here so you can begin to track all of those already in your community that you have access to or could start to build a relationship with that can support your goals? All right. I think I got some typos on there, but does anybody have any questions about that activity? I believe in the power of silence. Sometimes I think it can be quite productive. Let's check the chat and see. Doesn't look like anybody has any questions. That's great. If you do have any questions, please do let me know. You can email me again at eddie@mississippifarmtoschool.org. It sounds like my neighbors are building garden beds now. If anybody can hear that, apologies. They got some kind of miter saw going. All right, y'all. So we're going to go ahead. And I want to ask, if you support a class or a school garden now, put a veggie emoji in the chat. If you support one now, a class or a school garden now, put a veggie emoji in the chat. We got Angel with the carrot in the chat. And like I said, y'all, if you want to see an outstanding school garden, they have animals. They have all of these beautiful zinnias. Oh my gosh. And they grow all kinds of delicious food. If you want to check that out, make sure you hit up Angel. It is such an inspiration. If you're planning to start a garden in the future, I want you to drop a fruit emoji in the chat. Oh, Miss Tawanda's got corn, so it looks like she's supporting a garden now. Anybody planning on, there they go. Okay. Nicole's got a watermelon in the chat. Nicole's planning on having one. Yolanda, Regina, they're planning on hosting one. We love it. We loved it at Miss Nancy. We've got all kinds of folks that are real excited about having a garden at their center. Tashina, I'm so happy to see all of these fruits. We love to see it, and I hope y'all are getting some information to help you. So before we do that, before we start our garden, we got to know what the regulations say. So currently, childcare licensure is housed at the Mississippi State Department of Health. What do they say in their MSD, their big book of regulations governing the licensure of childcare facilities? So you can find this in Appendix C on page 22. Y'all, it's really short. There's not a lot of language or a lot of regulations that specifically govern farm to ECE activities, okay? They say in this piece, gardening is an excellent opportunity to incorporate physical activity with nutrition education. Facilities are encouraged to have gardening projects with the children. Produce that is grown in the gardens may be washed and handled properly to allow the items to be served for a snack time or educational activity. So they're pro-procurement. They're pro-local food growing, purchasing, tasting. Purchasing local produce from Mississippi farmers is one way to offer fresh items to the children. Of course, this also helps the local economy and raises families' awareness of food sources. So think about this. Your child has some local blueberries. Maybe they met a farmer that day during circle time. The farmer brought them some blueberries that they'd grown on their farm. They go home and they say, Mom, I had these amazing blueberries at school today, and they were so delicious. Can I please get some of Farmer Brown's blueberries? Right? You may end up inadvertently improving your local farm economy, your local farmer's revenue by feeding your kids local food. And think about how that enriches your local food system. And by virtue of enriching your local food system, it's also enriching your local economy, putting money back into the community. MSDH goes on to say the Child Care Center must ensure the safety of food served, and steps must be taken to demonstrate reasonable care has been taken to ensure the safety of foods purchased. So remember that food safety checklist, Mary Jo dropped it in the chat. If the farmer you're purchasing from doesn't have GAP certification or a food safety plan, just forward that checklist, that 2-page checklist over to that farmer and get them to fill that out. And then you can have it on file. So if MSDH comes asking, where'd you get these local blueberries? You can say, oh, from a very food safe source, right? All right. So let's read a little more. Here's how you can follow MSDH regulations when it comes to farm to ECE. There are some gaps when it comes to MSDH regulations governing farm to ECE activities. So to make sure that you're following regulations, just ensure that you're following all those regulations whenever possible. Be thoughtful about how farm to ECE intersects with the greater part, right? All of those sort of greater policies and procedures governing the safety of your ECE program. So, of course, you're going to want to follow all required staff to child ratios in the garden space. Now, if your program finds this at all possible, because your kids are outside, double the amount of staff required by MSDH when you're in the outdoor garden, okay? Because you want to be mindful of developmentally appropriate activities, like 3-year-olds that are able to water plants can use a watering jug, they can wear gloves. But if they're cutting zinnias from the pollinator garden, or if they've got some scissors because they want to cut some strawberries off of a vine, they need to use those scissors with supervision. If you have, let's say, 9, not that you would, but let's say you have 12 2-year-olds outside, right? 9 1-year-olds outside, 14 3-year-olds outside. That falls within the MSDH ratio if you've got 14 3-year-olds by yourself, right? But you're not going to be able to make sure that they are all acting safely, especially if one is using scissors with supervision. You've got your eyes off of the other 13. So make sure that you bring out more staff whenever you're able to ensure the safety of the children in the gardening space. You're going to want to avoid using playground or other safety fences as trellises, right? So you can make a trellis. Maybe you get your older kids to make a trellis using sticks and twine, but you don't want to use your fence, any of your fences as a trellis when you're growing items, because that discourages sight lines, right? If the teacher cannot see past the fence, then we can't encourage safety past the fence, right? And beyond. So make sure that you have a garden, a farm to ECE activities, or just a general safety policy in place at your center that covers these activities, right? Does your current safety policy in your handbook, in your policy manual, does it cover being out in the garden? Does it have, steps in place for if something happens out in the garden, right? Are you training your teachers on safety practices in the garden, right? Make sure you include this policy in your center handbook and that you provide that policy training to all the staff before your farm to ECE activities take place, okay? This covers all your bases, right? We don't want any negligence. We want to make sure that everybody is being thoughtful and prioritizing safety. You're going to want to create a document or include a short sentence in your enrollment agreement. This is for ECE programs, an enrollment agreement that outlines permission for children to participate in farm to ECE activities. Are the kids going outside of the fence? Is that okay with your MSDH liaison? Is that okay with your kids' parents? If it's not okay, how can you plan to support that child? How can you pivot so that every child can participate in the activities? Require the legal guardians to sign this agreement and keep it on file in your office prior to student involvement in the garden, farm field trips, etc. If you need language, if you need help developing this enrollment agreement language or these safety policies, hit me up. Let me know. I'm happy to help. I've got boilerplate language that I can share with you. And finally, as a reminder, when you're working to procure local fresh produce, so this is produce that you and your students haven't grown, but you're going outside of the program to purchase this produce for your program, for your center's meal program, or to support farm to ECE activities like we've done taste tests, we've done mobile family farmers markets, right? If you're doing these regularly, you're going to want to ensure that the distributor, right, where you purchase the food, the farm that you purchase it from, has a food safety plan in place. And you want to request a copy of their food safety plan and keep it on file in your office. I think the best place to put it is in your MSDH binder. If the farmer you're working with is like, what the heck is a food safety plan? You can forward them the link that we have to the food safety plan that Mary Jo dropped in the chat earlier, and you can have them fill it out. It's an extensive checklist, but it's only 2 pages, and then they sign it and they can send it over to you, and it's a great accountability tool. Okay, so that's how you can follow MSDH regulations when you're doing farm to ECE activities. All right, now coming up, we have got another activity, and this activity is predicted off of this slide, okay? Who do you need to engage to make sure your farm to ECE program is a success and is sustainable and can keep going even if you have to back away, right? Getting the support of your ECE administrators or any of your leadership, whether or not it's ECE, getting the support of your administrators and fellow staff members like janitors, nutrition staff, other teachers, it's a necessary first step to starting your farm to school or farm to ECE programming. Now, I know most of you, the reason why you're here is because you're probably the most or one of the most energized people when it comes to farm to ECE programming in your organization. I know that's probably why you're here. It's because you're jazzed, you're already engaged, you want it to happen. But this is not a one-person job. I wish it was, right? I wish it was. But the more support you have, the better your program is going to fare, okay? A successful school garden team can be made up of as many or as few members as needed. I myself, I like to have just a few, right? like under 5 folks on my Farm to ECE team, because the larger the group gets, the more just wily it gets, right? It's a little hard to manage. But if you can put everybody on a little group chat on your iPhone or Android and just check in with each other, give each other updates, maybe have a monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly meeting with each other to talk about how to support this programming, the better. You're going to get more done, all right? But you should have, within this group, small or large, you should have at least one administrator, right? One person in leadership, one outdoor maintenance person, one local gardener, one staff member, one family member, and then a student if possible. Now, the student doesn't need to be on the iPhone chat, but it is great to get students' thoughts on programming, right? If you go full steam ahead on your adult plans and then you say to the kids, what do you think? You may end up with some that are like, I don't want to do this, right? And you're going to have to pivot even after you've put in all of these supports. But if you go to a student first or students first and you poll them, you survey them and say, what would y'all like to see? What would y'all like to do? You can be sure to incorporate their vision from the beginning, and that way it drives engagement, right? So again, participation from school administration or leadership is necessary to gain approval for the space and design of the garden, as well as teachers and staff's time for garden workshops, professional development, staying after school, talking to each other, right? So you want to have leadership's approval. I know one organization at the school, the Department of Early Childhood at the University of Mississippi, they waited 2 years to get approval for an outdoor garden. Did they want to wait 2 years? No. Did they get it? Yes. They eventually got to a point where they could have an outdoor garden. And that was because they got the buy-in of administration, right? So you don't want to erect an outdoor garden and then your leadership finds out and you have to tear it down. That would be such a bummer. Make sure you get leadership's approval. If you have year-round or even monthly, month-to-month outdoor maintenance staff, let them know, right? You don't want to plant a tree and then have it mown over in July, little baby tree. That's so sad. I've had that happen. It's really sad. You want the outdoor maintenance staff to be in the loop. You want them to know where the little baby fruit trees are. You want them to know where the garden starts and where the garden stops, right? Maybe they can take on summer watering, but you want to make sure they're in the loop, okay? And they can help you with upkeep when the program is closed. If you don't have maintenance staff, who in your community is willing to support the garden on off times? Okay. Who do you know? Can you send out a sign-up genius to your kids' parents and say, I need somebody, a team of somebodies to come in every week and water. Who wants to take on Mondays? Who wants to take on Fridays? Right? Who in your community is willing to support the garden on the off times? And how can you get them at the table of your dream team? Local gardeners, okay? These master gardeners. This is what we were talking about earlier. Mississippi State Extension, they have a master gardening program. You may have master gardeners in your midst and you don't even know it. You want to have their expertise at the table. So get in touch with your extension agent. Get in touch with your community. Ask, who here is a master gardener? We'd love to have you so that they can share insight and techniques about how to create a bountiful harvest. And then, of course, you want support from your fellow teachers, your fellow staff members, from the community. If you can get student support, excellent. We call that youth truth. We really want them bought in. Because if you grow as a community, you grow tighter, right? You start to understand the importance of lending a hand to your local food system, right? And you do this by starting a garden together. All right, so now that we've gone over this, I want us to take a little bit, probably the next 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And I want you to think about who is on your Farm to ECE team. Who is that? At a lot of the folks that, a lot of the programs that we worked at last year, at 2 of the Head Starts, it was the janitor. The janitor was the second person. And the janitor was so excited to get outside and plant. Okay. At one of our Head Starts, this was one of the 3 Head Starts, or the 8 Head Starts on the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians Reservation. Their childhood nutrition director, that staff, they were huge in this. So ask yourself, who could be on my Farm to ECE team? But before you do that, make sure you take a little break just for you, and then meditate. Come back to your workspace and consider the following. Who in your organizational leadership do you need the approval of, right? They don't necessarily have to be on the iPhone chat when you talk about the garden, right? But you do need their leadership. You need their buy-in. So who within your organizational leadership are you going to ask and have at your table when it's necessary? Do you have maintenance staff? What do they need from you to support your Farm to ECE goals? If you don't have maintenance staff, who in your community can contribute to the maintenance? Do you know any local gardeners? If you don't know any local gardeners, who could you ask to point the way? MSU Extension Services is a great start. And then who else in your organization might support your Farm to ECE program goals? Who else could you have at the table? All right, so let's take a little bit, take a break. We'll come back at, let's say, 10:55. We'll come back at 10:55, and I'll ask folks to share, and then we're going to take our half-hour lunch break. So at 10:55, we'll come back. I'll ask you to share who's on your Farm to ECE team, because I'd love to hear, and I think your ideas could inspire others. And then after that share out, we'll break for lunch for a half hour. All right, y'all. Good luck in your brainstorm. I look forward to seeing you in about 11 minutes. 5 minutes, team. 5 minutes. I'll see y'all at 10:55, and I'll ask some folks to share out about what they've learned through this team building exercise. One minute, everybody. 1 minute, and then we'll come back together for about 5 or 10 minutes to talk about who you found on your team or who you're planning to ask to be on your team, and then we'll break for lunch. All right, y'all. Tried to give everybody a little grace period. I guess it's almost 10:56. I hope you all have had an opportunity to care for yourselves, to pat yourselves on the back for prioritizing this extra long, intensive meeting today. Thank you so much for being here with me. I promise it's not always going to be me just talking at you for hours. We're also going to have in future Institute virtual lessons, we'll have lots of speakers that come and share with us all that they have experienced and all the wisdom that they've gleaned from their own farm to ECE programs and beyond. But for right now, I would love to hear from anybody. If you would raise your hand. If you don't know how to do that, you just toggle to the bottom to reactions. There's a little heart icon, and you'll click on reactions. And then within that box, pop-up box, it should say raise hand. Raise hand. If you'd like to share some ideas that you have for your farm to ECE team. I see Amy Berry and Jackson at JSU. You've got your hand raised. I'd love to hear who you found to ask on your farm to ECE team.
Well, okay. First of all, the JSU is, I'm an alum, so that's why I'm a proud alum. The team at Greater Bethlehem Temple Church's child care and after school program, we're definitely going to include some of the students from our summer academy because they're older. And the team is not in any specific order now. I'm just, as I was brainstorming, I was thinking about those components that we need to make sure that we have involved. So the older students, they'll get to end up seeing really the plants grow during the summer, and we can talk about the effects of the sun and all of that. The planting process is where the babies will be involved. By babies, I mean our child care facility. We have babies from the age of 1 till 5, 6. So they'll be involved with the planting. And we're a church organization, so we have a farm, and we have both older farmers and younger farmers who participated with us in the past, and I think they will again. They will come to assist with understanding the planting process and help the teachers with the soil, the right soil, and all of that. Identified 2 teachers who will kind of quote unquote take the lead in making sure that the schedule is followed, because we always want all of the students to see what's going on, and in a way that they see the growth of the plants, and then they see the development of the fruit or the veggie that's coming from the plant. So those persons I've identified. You said there that we needed to have an administrator. Our director here at Little Saints Academy is Sister Johnson. So she would be that person to just know what's going on, who's involved, and actually probably recording, taking pictures, all of that. And then our janitorial staff, we have 2 that I've identified. One is an older young man who keeps everything pristine around here. He loves our grounds, and he loves making sure that everything is well. So we have one other person who will serve as our specialist. One of the deacons in the church is he's retired. He was an MSU extension specialist, so he's retired now, program specialist. But he enjoys coming to see the work that we do in our beds. And that's going to make for the team. And of course, I'll participate in whatever way the team needs me to participate.
That is incredible. Y'all have such a rich, you have such a rich vision for this team, and you've got all these people at the table that have they're bringing all kinds of gifts, right?
Yes.
And I love thinking about how these, not just your 1 to 6-year-old students, but your summer students too, and your staff are going to be able to literally reap the benefits of all the lived experience that these folks around the table have. And, you know, this takes a lot of the sort of day-to-day, oh my gosh, who mowed the garden pressure off of you, right? It
Yes.
alleviates that burden when you can pivot and say, Mr. Scott or Deacon Jones, do you have space this weekend? That's amazing, Amy. I'm so happy to hear that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Tawanda, would you like to share? I'd love to hear.
Yes, I would. Hello.
Hi.
So I have a childcare center, and so this slide was very important to me because I have been a one-woman show for about 3 years now. Because I just love gardening, and so we have my center is inside of my dad's church. So we, use the classrooms that's inside the church, but there's like a huge campus behind us. So I, just got the bright idea that I wanted a garden. And so we, started the garden, and, it's been, very, very successful. The children love it. The parents, love it. My cook, she gardens at home, and so I have enlisted her to help, with maintenance and, just helping me out because she's, a much older lady. And then my custodial staff, I have a young man who is, very helpful, and he's, very good, and he actually has some experience in gardening as well. And then I guess I think I'll probably try to see if I can get maybe 2 parents. Right now I already know of a grandmother that gardens. Like we talk all the time about, our gardens at home and stuff. So I'm sure she'll be happy to help. And the students love it. So I know, the students will be happy to participate. Um, and then probably my parents, my mom and my dad, because they both garden as well. They come out and, look at the garden, but they don't really I haven't asked them to do any maintenance or, help out like that. But I know I'm going to have to, get some more hands in here because it is very hard, maintaining, because it's growing, it's getting larger and larger. So, this was, really helpful for me to see that, I need to ask for help and, allow people to help, with this vision that I have. So, yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I think all of us sometimes we need a reminder that delegation and asking for help is a powerful tool. Can you remind me, Tawanda, where you're from? Where's your center located?
In Clarksdale.
In Clarksdale. Okay, great. Amazing. So, I love knowing about all these places. I'd love to come and visit and see y'all.
Okay.
And then I also, I just wanted to point out to folks on the call, if you're in the Delta, reach out to Tawanda. Y'all can lean on each other. If you're in and around Jackson, reach out to Amy. You can lean on each other. Tawanda, I love your ideas about reaching out to grandparents. When I was a director and we had our garden program, we had 2 grandparents who were really the central most volunteers. And we had a summer program in the summer that kept all of our staff really busy. So those grandparents just worked together to volunteer for watering, making sure that the plants outside stayed watered, the garden stayed watered. And it also makes me think, so many childcare centers, not just in the South, but across the nation, are located in churches. If you can connect with members of your clergy and get announcements out on Sundays or whenever your services may be held to ask for volunteers, I am sure many folks would be moved to service. Of course, it does take some management from you, letting folks know, how to get in, what to do, that sort of thing. But instead of you going up there on a Saturday, someone else can volunteer to do that for you, right? Angel, I would love to hear about your team, and then y'all will head on out for lunch. Angel?
Okay, I'll go really fast because I know it's always the worst to go right before lunch. But anyway, now here I'm at the high school, and so our Beta and National Honor Society groups, they're great because they have to have hours to help. So that doesn't just apply to me as a teacher here at the high school. They also go out into the community. So that would be something you could look into with your local high school. There are other groups. Those just the first two that come to mind. So Beta and National Honor Society. Our sports teams are really good about that, like especially moving heavy stuff like baseball, soccer, football. They can move something that would take me a month to do. They can do in 5 minutes because they're big, strong, young guys. And then our local landscape company, they have been a huge supporters. They built a $50,000 garden project for me, and I didn't even apply for it. They just offered it to me, and that was fantastic. Also, the co-op, Byhalia Garden Club. So that's up here, but there's garden. A lot of them are master gardeners. They have really been involved. They want to come tour. They teach classes during the summer with young children. Same thing with soil and water conservation. And again, Ag in the Classroom through Farm Bureau. They've all got different groups and they can do some financial support, but they also volunteer to come tour and to speak to the students. Then we have the Chamber of Commerce. I work with them as well. Of course, the one here is in Olive Branch. Then there's the Rotary Club. And of course, our CTE, the Career Technical Education Center right next to us. They've built chicken coops for me before and done different maintenance things. So those are just some things that just off the top of my head.
I am so moved by, you bring up this really, really quality point that like many, many organizations in any areas that we live in, like football teams, Beta Club, that sort of thing, they have got students that are able-bodied. They need service hours. If you can connect with them, it's great to be able to bring them into your garden space and help them support the work too. And then that raises that community engagement piece, right? How have you been able to get in touch with your Beta Club, your football players, that sort of thing? What advice do you have for us for getting in touch with those folks?
Oh, I would definitely contact the counselor's office. They'll put you in to who you need to talk to.
Love it. So for those of you at ECE programs, if you have a nearby high school, perhaps you could get in touch with that high school counselor or the counselor's office, and you might be able to find some volunteers in that way too. Angel, that's wonderful. Thank you. All right, y'all, before we head out for lunch, Tawanda, I just wanted to say that some folks are in the chat, Laura Jane and Nicole, are interested in connecting with you. I just wanted to make sure you saw that and could lift that up. And anyway, we'll see each other back here at 11:35. I'll go easy on y'all. I'm not going to start right smack dab at 11:35. Please do take your time. I know a 30-minute lunch break is a joke, but I wish we could all have a leisurely 2-hour lunch break. But in the interest of time, we'll be back here at 11:35 for the Gardening 101 piece. And I'll see y'all soon. Enjoy. Take care. All right, friends, we're going to start moseying on back at 11:35-ish. I don't want to rush y'all, but just giving you about a 2-3 minute heads up. See y'all soon. All right, my friends, in 1 minute-ish, we'll get started on the Gardening 101 piece. I hope you all have gotten to enjoy some walking around. Hope you got some water, something to drink. They got some food, or at least you have a plan for some food. If I know folks that work in ECE programs, you were hungry at 9:30 for lunch. Y'all get up early. Okay, everybody. It is 11:35. Welcome back to the latter half, or the latter piece of the Mississippi Farm to ECE Institute virtual lesson number 1, where we'll be talking about Gardening 101. We'll also be sharing some resources during this portion. And my hope was to design this portion so that you could all be off camera and listening like you would a podcast. I wanted to move that person-to-person work to the beginning, so you had a little bit of energy and pep to be able to connect with one another and do some desk work as we began. And now you can just kind of settle in and listen. If you have any questions, you're welcome to drop them in the chat. I'll answer them at the end of this segment. And my hope is that we will be done within about an hour so y'all can get out of here before 1 p.m. So let's go ahead and begin. So you've got your leadership's approval, right? We developed those farm to ECE dream teams, and we talked about how important it is to get leadership's approval. You've gathered your farm to ECE team. You've got all these wonderful folks sitting around the table. You've started a group chat. Everybody knows that they can lean on each other and delegate tasks to one another. So you've been able to do those items. What do you do now? What do you do now to start your farm to ECE programming? Well, 4 main decisions must be made. So we're going to take some time to talk about what those decisions are, what they include, and how you might possibly go about answering them. The first question you'll want to ask yourself when you're planning your farm to ECE programming, particularly as it relates to that gardening pillar of farm to ECE. You remember those 3 farm to ECE pillars: nutrition and agricultural education. That's 1. Gardening is 2. That can be indoor, outdoor, as long as your kids are growing food, something they can eat. And 3 is procurement, local food purchasing, local food sourcing. If you're not growing it, you're getting it and you're putting it in your meal program and on your kids' table. We'll be talking about that in April. More about that later. So, one of the first important question you have to ask yourself when you're thinking about that gardening pillar is this one. When do you want to plant? Once you've gathered your team, it's time to coordinate the logistics. It's especially helpful when all members of your team are able to communicate through a common source. So maybe you're sending out a weekly email. Maybe you've started that text thread on your phone. Maybe you have a newsletter. Maybe it's a WhatsApp channel, whatever. Just a central place where you all can talk. You're going to elect 1 to 3 point people. You'll plan an introductory meeting, and then you'll choose the date that your team will break ground on your new garden. And here's a pro tip. Some gardening options like hydroponics, low maintenance, pretty high cost at the front end, anywhere from about $400 to $1,200 at the front end. But a hydroponic tower is a great option, and you can grow it year round. It's low maintenance. You may need a smaller farm to ECE team to do that. So breaking ground with a hydroponic garden looks a little different than if you've got raised beds outside. You'll also be planting raised beds at different times, whereas the hydroponic garden is going to grow, of course, year round. And then just a note about your farm to ECE team. You're not all going to always be on the same page. You're going to have differing opinions. You might even have some folks that are opinionated or stubborn on your team. But remember, when you're talking and planning with one another, you share a common goal, and that is to sustain your farm to ECE programming activities and to help it thrive. So always come back to the mission if you ever have any issues with your team deciding what to do next. All right, so you've got that first question. When do you want to plant? And then number 2, what do you want to plant? You'll ask yourselves that question. There are 4 distinct planting zones in Mississippi. Remember when we talked about those geographical regions earlier? We've also got different planting zones. I'm in a different planting zone in the rolling hills than folks on the coast. Research your program's growing zone to find the best times of year to plant certain fruits and vegetables. Maybe you want to start a binder or something so that you can keep track of these schedules so that you can yield the best harvest. Something to keep in mind is unless you have a massive garden and you got a lot of volunteers and you can devote a lot of time to your garden, you're probably not going to be able to grow enough food across the growing seasons to supplement your meal program all the time. It's not doable, but it certainly takes a lot of work. And often in ECE programs, we triage. So there are going to be some days where your farm to ECE programming can come first. It can top the list. But there are going to be some days where you cannot prioritize the garden because you've got to do other things. Maybe you've got to be in classes that day or that week. But you can think about these schedules when you consider what you want to plant. And you can consider your growing zone to make sure that what you do grow, you're able to grow it in a way that yields the best results. And the way that you can do this in a pro way is you contact your county's state extension office, right? They offer so many growing guides according to the zones that you're in. They even offer plant calendars and more. And of course, you can always contact me if you need to find those resources quickly, and I can help connect you to your extension agent down the road. So this is an example of one of those planting calendars offered by the Mississippi State Extension Service, right? So you can see this is for a garden by 20 by 50 feet or 1,000 square feet. And then it lists out your spring planting dates, your summer planting dates, and your fall planting dates, right? So for those of you that might be out or your program is not operating in the summer, you just eliminate these, okay? And you come back and do fall. Or maybe fall is really busy and you're open year round, so you can pivot to spring and summer dates. Maybe you have an after-school program or a summer program, and your summer students can start to focus on summer planting and perhaps even some late spring planting, right? So keep these in mind. Your extension service has all kinds of things like this. Something we can offer to you at the Mississippi Farm to School Network, in addition to what the extension service can offer you, are produce availability guides, right? So not when can I plant, but when can I harvest? I think this is particularly helpful when you're looking at calendars with that childhood nutrition team member you might have on your Farm to ECE team, right? How can you loop in your chefs? How can you loop in your cooks? How can you loop in your director who designs your menus so that you can see, oh, you know what? The kids really love salad with spinach. I know that spinach, we're going to be able to harvest spinach October through December or in May. How can I put these items on our school menu so that I can ensure the kids are getting access to this local fresh food in our meal program? We have this available. You can use it. You'll get the link. If you see these underlined options, I'll be sending this slide deck to y'all in the forthcoming email. If it's underlined, it is a hyperlink. And if you click on this hyperlink, the Fresh Produce Guide, if you click on the Fresh Produce Guide hyperlink, you'll be able to access not just posters and printouts that look like this, but an entire produce availability guide for the state of Mississippi to help you and your childhood nutrition team plan ahead. You can also consider companion planting with your Farm to ECE team, right? So when we're planting in Farm to ECE spaces, we must always, always, always prioritize and center our students and our staff's safety. A way you can do that really impactfully is by gardening organically, right? It's best to make sure your garden is organic. That way, if you have a little one that toddles out there and pulls a mustard green off of the stalk and chomps on it, you can make sure if that's an organic garden, they're really only going to get maybe a little dirt or something in their mouth, and they're not going to end up with pesticides, right? So you can use companion planting. And again, we have this available for you. If you'd like, I'll attach it to the email. But companion planting is a way to keep the pests away organically. So for example, if you plant corn near green beans, cucumbers, peas, pumpkins, melons, and squash, you can keep the pests away. If you plant carrots near tomatoes, leeks, rosemary, sage, and chives, I've even heard marigolds, you can keep the pests away in that companion planting method too. So again, when you're thinking about breaking ground for your garden, if it's going to be outside, you want to rule out pesticide and think about organic gardening. To keep those pests at bay, consider companion planting. You're also going to want to discern what your garden's purpose is. Do you want it to have a theme? Do you want it to be colorful? What are your ideas? You can bring these to the table when you talk to your farm to ECE team. Think about how you'll use the food. Are you going to host taste tests? Are you going to send harvests home? Are you going to create a discovery-based learning garden? You can theme your gardens like herb spirals, right? That might be good for an in-classroom garden. It's small. It can be in the corner near a window. And you can have an herb spiral so the kids might be able to, if they are the lunch helpers, they might be able to go and pick some sprigs of herbs and throw them into, wash them, which is a great practical life lesson on their own. It's also a great way to exercise their fine motor skills. And perhaps they want to use that herb spiral garden to flavor the food that day. Have that available. That's a taste test option. Perhaps you want to do a pizza garden. This is one of my favorites. I love this theme. Kids love pizza. You can use pizza as the focal point of the garden, and you can grow basil, tomatoes, oregano. When you harvest those, you could have a pizza party in your classroom where you use those items that the kids have grown to make a pizza. And I'm going to tell you, as somebody who has worked in centers where the kids are hands-on growing the food, my kids, they loved a fresh mustard green and a fresh carrot. And so eventually I started talking with our school chef and I said, what if we cook these? What if we just have some like turnip greens or some greens with lunch? What if we have some cooked carrots with lunch? Well, we tried it. The kids love the cooked carrots. Okay, we added a little bit of like brown sugar, that sort of thing, cinnamon. But they would not touch the stewed mustard greens. However, when the mustard greens were fresh and they could make the association that they grew those in their garden, we started to bring in those mustard greens, and the kids used something like this little wavy cutter that you see this boy having here to make and prep their own in-classroom salads, and then they ate the heck out of it, right? So having a pizza garden, you can start to incorporate those pieces of pizza, those ingredients of pizza, and help the kids understand how they're making nutritious choices. You can also grow a pollinator garden. I think this is really exciting. I worked in a Montessori program. The pollinator garden, we situated in the center of our vegetable garden, and we had some fruits too, like strawberries and berries. But our pollinator garden at the center provided all of these bright flowers, bright colors, and attracted all kinds of pollinators. So when our kids went out to the garden, it was a really rich vocabulary and science lesson where we could talk about how caterpillars become butterflies. We could bring out magnifying glasses and look at the little ants crawling around and doing the work. It was an excellent, excellent opportunity for the kids to understand the pollination cycle, the life cycle in a garden, for them to have a science lesson. And also, it was a great fine motor lesson. So we would go out and we would pick flowers. We limited the amount of flowers the kids could have, like zinnias, but they would then bring them inside and they would arrange the flowers in their own little vases, or they would work as a team to arrange them in a vase. And that's such a great fine motor skill to work on. And it's a way for them to start to take pride in their classroom space. I grew those flowers. Those flowers make my classroom more beautiful, right? You can also add colorful elements. Kids can paint rocks, signs, or other whimsical art to place in the garden. And this helps contribute to student ownership of the space. All right, so I want you to take a little moment, think about what we just talked about, and share your ideas by placing one of these or multiple of these emojis in the chat. If you want to grow a pizza garden, throw a pizza emoji in the chat. If you like the idea of a pollinator garden, which is rich with all kinds of lessons, vocabulary, science, fine motor, throw a bumblebee emoji in the chat. If you are really energized at the idea of bringing student art into your garden, throw an art palette in the chat. I see Tashina wants to grow a pizza garden. I myself love the idea of a pizza garden and then a pizza party during harvest season. Too fun. Regina wants to do it all. Regina wants to do the pizza garden, the pollinator garden, and bring her students' art into her garden. I love it. There's all kinds of options for theming the work that we do. And when we come together like this, we're able to share and inspire one another. All right. The third question you want to ask yourself, where do you want to plant? This is a big one. You're going to want to gather your team and really think about this, right? Because light, water, and safety are essential. You're going to want to look for a spot with at least 6 hours of sunlight, but you're also going to want to make sure that your plants get a little respite, that they're not just burning in the sun, especially that Mississippi sun in the summers, okay? So look for a spot with at least 6 hours of sunlight, good drainage, and easy access to water. Spigots and rain barrels are great options. You're going to plan your garden beds based on your program's needs, right? Can you do raised beds? Can you do in-ground plots? Or is it better if you start smaller with a container garden and you grow into raised beds or in-ground plots, okay? Make sure that when you're picking materials for your garden, that they're safe and durable for young gardeners, okay? Keep in mind those sharp corners. Keep in mind that little ones need lots and lots of reminders to keep their hands to themselves, especially when working with garden tools. So maybe just get some plastic watering cans to start instead of handing everybody a shovel or a trowel, okay? How can you choose the best space? Here's some key questions to ask your Farm to ECE team. Is there a nearby water source for easy irrigation? Do yourselves a favor and make sure you're close to water. It is such a pain to be far away from water and growing things. Maybe it's a great space, but if the water isn't nearby, every day it's going to be a struggle to encourage yourself or whomever is taking care of the garden that day to get out there and do it, because lugging the water that far is rough. Is the area safe for students? Is it safe for the people that are going to be in the garden? Can the garden be locked or monitored if you want that? Who owns the land? Do you need a formal agreement or a partnership? Do you rent your space? Do you need to talk to the landlord before you start? If so, maybe you want to start with a container garden on the playground or outside the classroom door. And as you wait for the landlord to approve, you're still able to grow some items in those containers. Does the space get at least 6 hours of sunlight? Is the soil healthy? If it's not, do you need raised beds? Raised beds are a great option, and you can usually do them for relatively inexpensive using just 2x4s or pieces of wood, and you can have some folks come out to secure them together into raised beds. Or there's even some little paver options at places like Home Depot and Lowe's where you can inset the boards into the corners, and that makes it really, really easy to replace the boards as they rot. Think about accessibility. Do you have a student who's disabled? Can they get to the area? Are you going to have events out in the area and have student family members that are disabled? Can they access the area? Is it easy for students, teachers, and volunteers to reach at all times of the year? And then finally, ask your team, can we use this space for multiple growing seasons to make sure our program is sustainable, right? These are some questions you want to point to the team. So let's say school space isn't available. Let's say you rent, or a number of schools, they've got like parking lot outside, or they don't have much green space outside. What can they do to make this happen? Well, back to those faith-based organizations, you can partner with a local church, a mosque, or a temple that has open green space. You can put those on that resource mapping worksheet and reach out to them. I am certain there's at least one faith-based organization in your area that wants to support your farm to ECE dreams. You can consider community gardens. In Oxford, where I'm from, there is a massive community garden kind of in the center of town where you can reserve plots. Maybe your students can't get there easily, so you want to pivot away from that. But maybe your school is really close to that. And students could go over there with trusted teachers in little trips to be able to visit their plot. These community gardens also often offer built-in resources like tools and compost, and then you might bump into some master gardeners over there and get some shared knowledge. You could also ask community centers or parks in your area. And then some other options are vacant lots. Maybe you ask your city, your mayor, a nonprofit for permission to use a vacant lot. A rooftop space or a courtyard. That would be gorgeous, so cool. Or you could collaborate with local businesses that have extra outdoor space. Regardless, a pro tip for finding space is to build those partnerships early by showing how the garden benefits the whole community, not just your program, right? Lots and lots of people I've seen, gardens go up in areas, and maybe it was like 1 or 2 or 3 people that put that garden together, but it eventually became a communal neighborhood space where people would stop and just enjoy the view. They're really healing spaces in so many ways. And then number 4, one of the big questions to ask, and this goes back to that container question. How do you want to plant? How do you want to plant? Okay. So get with your team and consider the following. Containers and pots. These are great for patios, classrooms, small spaces, rental spaces. You can use recycled buckets, nursery pots with drainage holes, even old shoes. I've seen people use toilets and bathtubs. You can use whatever, right? You can get creative. Grow bags. These are lightweight, breathable. They're easy to move unless it's like a really big grow bag or like a little tiny kid trying to move the grow bag. But maybe if you need to move grow bags and you use them in your farm to ECE programming, you can use that as a teamwork exercise where multiple kids come together to do a big work to move the grow bags. Grow bags are ideal for root crops like potatoes and carrots. Maybe raised beds, right? These are perfect for larger school gardens. I think we see these more and more often in farm to ECE. And what's great about raised beds is that they offer control over soil quality and drainage. Maybe the area that you have gets lots of really great light, but it doesn't have a lot of good drainage or good soil. If you raise the beds, you can choose the soil. You can make sure that they drain well. Vertical gardens, these are gorgeous. You can use trellises. Again, remember, don't use that playground fence or any fence to ruin sight lines so that you can maintain safety. But you can build some trellises or purchase some, sometimes inexpensive, sometimes expensive. It just depends. Maybe there's a volunteer that could build some in your program. But you can use trellises, wall planters, or hanging baskets to plant herbs and vining crops like tomatoes if you have limited space. And then hydroponic towers, you'll notice that's underlined. A tower garden is excellent for growing in small spaces or growing inside or growing year round. And they're gorgeous. People come in and they're like, what is that space age thing growing lots of cool food? It can be a little pricey. It starts about $400 retail. You can sometimes find them on Facebook Marketplace, things like that. So you can keep your eye out. But they're a great, great option. And that hydroponic tower underline hyperlink, I think it goes to a guide for using hydroponic towers. Remember, almost anything can be a planter with good drainage and good soil. And then your team will want to consider garden supplies. Now, while all of these are not necessary, it is good to have supplies on hand, okay? Trowels, hand rakes, garden shears. These are the kinds of things you're going to want to keep away from the kids, right? But maybe you want to have some gloves on hand. I myself am a huge proponent of the gardens being an amazing sensory experience for anyone who gets in the garden. So unless you have a child who is sensitive to the sensory experience of mud or water or dirt, things of that nature, I'm team they don't need gloves unless they have that sensory sensitivity. And then you can use, after you come back in from the garden, you can use that as an opportunity to teach them the practical life lesson of washing their hands, right? Great tools for them, for young children to have, are buckets and storage bins, watering cans, thermometers. Perhaps you want to post some garden rules and draft those with the kids' help. We even have some garden rules posters that we can send to y'all and you can print out. So we've done the work for you. But do consider these supplies as you look ahead. And this is where, partnering with local businesses, perhaps you have a local ACE Hardware and you can ask them to donate some seeds to you, or a local co-op like Angel works with, who might be able to help you out when it comes to looking for materials to support your garden. We'll talk about fundraising a little bit later, but you may need some funds for this. So make sure your leadership is bought in. And of course, you can always turn to your classroom community and your community at large for help. And then as you draft your garden safety rules poster, or you talk about garden safety rules with your kids during circle time, you're going to want to make sure that you keep these top of mind. It's important to establish guidelines, and as you all know, we are broken records when it comes to the rule book with young kids. So you're going to want to have some really succinct, clear rules and boundaries that you can repeat again and again to your kids until they get it. They're going to want to have walking feet in the garden. You're going to want to show them how to use the tools properly, and then provide them supervision and the ability to ask for help when it's needed. Encourage them to be mindful of others when they're using sharp tools. I had a classroom with a teacher. She brought out 5 of our, I think it was 5 4-year-olds out into the garden one day. And they were older 4s, and they were out there clipping zinnias in the pollinator garden to bring inside, to organize little vases with flowers in their classroom, beautify their classroom. She looked away for just a little bit. Teachers, you know exactly what this is like. And she looked back, and one of our little boys had clipped his eyelid with the scissors. And if you clip your face or your hands, they bleed profusely. It was pretty scary for her. Luckily, it was a superficial wound for him, but they were all the way out there with a whole bunch of scissors, and she had to bring them in. 5 kids at the start of it felt doable, but once that happened, it felt overwhelming. So make sure that when they're using anything sharp, they have really, really great supervision and are very clear on how they use those items. Do hands washing classes after they garden. And then remember, always, especially in this Mississippi heat, they need access to their water bottles or to water when they're outside. So get them to stay hydrated, and train your teachers to make sure to remind the kids to take water breaks every 30 minutes, especially between May and September in Mississippi. And then you're going to want to teach your kids and your staff to stay on the lookout for bugs, poisonous plants, and hot surfaces. That's something we don't always remember. I myself am very allergic to poison ivy, so I learned from a young age what that looked like. But it's a great lesson, a great science lesson and vocabulary lesson to teach that to all of your kids. What does poison ivy look like? And then you're going to want to plan ahead to beat the heat, right? So you and your team are going to want to consider all of these safety precautions and those for yourselves. You need to water the plants in the early morning or the late evening, particularly in those warm months. And always wear that sun protective gear and sunscreen. This, I think, is such a really fun but underutilized way to think about the gardening pillar of Farm to ECE. And that is how gardening already connects to your standing curriculum. Okay. These are some simple, low or no cost farm to ECE activities for students, but the opportunities are endless, y'all. There's all kinds of ways that you could host your current classroom time with your current curriculum out in the garden right now if you wanted to. And like I said, the National Head Start Association came out with this gorgeous, huge resource compendium for ECE providers, particularly in Head Start spaces this past year. But I think it's useful for all manner of programs that serve children 0 to 5. And I'm going to be sending that out along with all these other resources that I've shared in this. But it's such a worthwhile browse because it links those early learning standards to farm to ECE activities. Okay. So here's some activity ideas for you, which garden yoga. You could start your visit with grounding by getting your classroom to mimic a tree in the wind, right? Or a growing sprout. You could do a mindful munch exercise. So you get a seasonal veggie or fruit, you cut it up, and everybody takes a bite and just shuts their eyes, tastes the fruit, and see if you can't get some of the students to say what it tastes like. Talk about the color, have a vocabulary lesson. We talked a lot about bouquet building, which again is a great fine motor activity and can be an excellent gift on Grandparents' Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day. And then farmer visits. Well, you'll see our Mississippi Farms map in just a little bit, but you can use our farms map to find a farm near you, like Reverend Miles on the call, and you can invite them to visit your class. And your big kids, right? So let's say you've got kids over the age of 6, they could even plan a field trip or farm visit. And that is a huge lesson for them in executive functioning, in creative writing, planning. That's a big deal. Here is our Mississippi Farms map. You can take out, if you've got a smartphone, you can take out your smartphone and use this QR code to access the map. And what this map will show you are places to purchase and farms all across the state with whom you can connect in your area and perhaps work with them to invite them to visit your classroom or schedule a field trip. You could even purchase local food from them. Now, keep in mind, we're approaching a very, very busy season. So the ideal time to connect with farmers is in the winter, right? But still, this is a great tool to supplement your farm to ECE programming. And how you can engage local farmers in your school gardens, right? There's so many opportunities, right? Because farmers bring real world experience and they deepen student understanding of food systems. They spark student curiosity about careers in agriculture. You want them to be thought partners in your farm to ECE programming. Maybe they can even sit on your farm to ECE team. Ways you can collaborate with them is you can invite them for guest visits. You can ask them to come and do hands-on help, perhaps during events that you host at maybe the beginning of the planting season. You could celebrate a farmer and have them come out to your garden and have a whole community event that way. You could do a farm tour, or you could even do something called crop connections, where you coordinate crops grown at school with what is being grown at that farm to create learning links for the students. Oh, we're growing strawberries, and Farmer Galloway is also growing strawberries. And how you can get started, again, you can reach out to me. I'm here to help. Our whole team is here to help you connect with these farms, or you can use the farms map to reach out independently. You can highlight their impact when they come and visit, or you can even publish in the newsletter, hey, y'all, we got a farm down the road and they're doing cool stuff. Go check it out sometime, okay? Farmers getting involved in ECE programming is such an exciting way to see it all happen. Now, I put this in here because I just wanted to show what studies have shown. So these are some garden activities that might inspire you, from preparing to caring to harvesting and eating activities. But you'll notice if it has a strawberry by it, that's where studies have shown most student engagement happens. And it does not surprise me that caring for the plants, so watering, weeding, observing them, observing garden bugs, and then preparing and snacking on what the students have grown, that's where we see the most student engagement. And caring for a plant extends to caring for the family pet, to caring for our siblings, to caring for our friends, to caring for our community, right? The sooner you start with caring lessons, the more empathetic you are going to encourage your students to be. So caring for plants is a great first step in creating really thoughtful, empathetic community members of the future, okay? And then again, all of these activities align with NACCE and Head Start learning standards. So they fit within your curriculum already. And here's some tips for engaging children in gardening. We've got give them ownership on here twice. I forgot I needed to update that. But, you can poll your classroom. You can see what kind of plants they want to grow. You can give them some ownership. Maybe you've got 2 or 3 garden beds. What do they want to plant in this one? What do they want to plant in this one? What are some colorful plants? Maybe your classroom really loves purple. What are some ways that you can incorporate purple plants into your garden planning? How can you incorporate hands-on learning? I think that's going to come pretty naturally, but how can you inspire your teachers to get into the hands-on learning, to getting outside or getting in the dirt, wherever it may be, inside or out? And then, of course, you can explore different textures. And this is really appealing for all children, neurotypical and neurodivergent. You can choose plants with different textures, different smells. Herbs are great for this. And they're a really great sensory experience. Perhaps you grow rosemary in the classroom and one of your students is overwhelmed. You could direct them to come over to the rosemary plant and maybe pet it or smell it. And over time, help them understand, right, that taking time to just smell that plant or be in that space can help them refine their calm. All right. For the farmers on the call, I wanted to uplift this. Here are some opportunities for y'all to get involved in Farm to ECE. We're going to talk a lot about procurement and local food purchasing, ways to expand your revenue streams at our April 16th meeting. But I wanted to say local food distribution, you could participate in a CSA. You can learn more about the Child and Adult Care Food Program. These are great opportunities for schools to leverage the budget they have to purchase local food through your farm. You could make sure that local educational programs know that you offer farm visits and field trips. You can support their garden. Maybe you join the Farm to ECE Dream Team at the local school, and perhaps you don't participate year-round, but in the winter you could provide some wisdom on the plans they have. Maybe you could do a taste test or food lessons or support menu development at the ECE. And then, of course, community partnerships. Just your farm working with that ECE program strengthens your communities in innumerable ways. Here are some more opportunities, more information about these opportunities that drive revenue. And of course, we'll be talking a little bit more about driving revenue and food systems procurement in April. But the CACFP, that's a federal program that provides 40 cents to $4.60 per meal in reimbursements for nutritious meals and snacks served to enrollees at participating programs. And all Head Starts receive CACFP funding. So by this measure, ECEs, like Head Starts, could use their CACFP funding to help purchase local food to get on their students' tables. CSA participation. ECEs are generally much smaller than big school districts, which can be an ideal customer for smaller farms and CSAs. An ECE could enroll in a community-supported ag program, and they could receive food boxes through that program. You could work with that program to supply what you grow in that CSA box. And then you could contact that ECE and say, hey, you know that rutabaga that you got in that CSA box? Well, that's from me. And I'd love to come and tell the kids about my rutabaga in a taste test. And then, of course, it's an opportunity when you're working with ECEs as a farmer, it's an opportunity to market your farm and products to local families. Okay. So maybe you come up to the school and you do a circle time presentation, or maybe you offer a field trip. Well, you could keep that relationship alive and send a flyer to the office manager of the ECE program that they could share with the kids and families in their center. And so maybe those kids and families come to you as new customers. Okay. Okay. And how can Mississippi Farm to School Network help our farmers? Well, we help with menu building. We can help connect our farmers with ECE programs in their area, child nutrition directors, and others. Throughout the year, we do have opportunities for, we call them regional networking events, where farmers and growers, distributors are able to come together with child nutrition staff and talk about how they can partner, or the potentials for partnership. We can elevate your work during our Farm to School Week challenge and connect you with schools that are participating in the challenge. We can offer garden assistance to any and everybody. And then we offer technical assistance office hours, so we can help you prepare for a field trip. Have you been mindful about having bathrooms for the kids, having seating places for the kids? We can help you think through that. We can help you think through food safety, the food safety checklist, and more. And then we can also help you with getting started in marketing your farm and your farm program. All right, y'all. I would love to know, because we're gearing up for, after this, we'll be gearing up for April's meeting where we talk about local food purchasing and sourcing and how to get local food on the tables in front of our kids. I want you to put your favorite green emoji in the chat if one of these is true. If your ECE program participates in the CACFP, so receives Child and Adult Care Food Program funding, this is kind of like the National School Lunch or School Breakfast Program, but for ECEs. Okay, so green emoji if your school receives CACFP funding. If your ECE program has or does serve fresh local food in its meal program regularly, like throughout the year, or if your organization knows a local farmer or farmer's market. I will use this data to help define our next meeting. All right. Look, we've got two of the same emojis. Director Sylvester and Miss Kirkland. They both have greens in the chat. Love. All right. I love to know it. So what we'll do in April is we'll talk about how you can use these connections to CACFP, to local food, to farmers, to enrich your that pillar, that procurement pillar of Farm to ECE. All right, y'all. So I talked a little bit earlier about how we were going to talk a little bit about funding for your Farm to ECE activities. These are just some ideas. You probably noticed earlier that, Angel Pilcher up in North Mississippi, Laura Jane, it sounds like down on the coast or in Central Mississippi, they have ideas for other funding activities, right? So these are not the only things you've got, but there's some ideas to help you start thinking about how you can fund your Farm to ECE program with your dream team. All right. So first of all, think about sponsorships and donations. All right. So we have, again, this is underlined. So it's a hyperlink. We have this letter here called our sponsorship letter or a template. And this is something that you can use, your program can use to reach out to businesses in your area or individuals in your area and ask for funding to support your farm to ECE activities or ask for in-kind donations. Maybe they have some seeds to offer. Maybe they have some gloves to offer. Maybe they have some soil to offer, mulch, wood. This is a great, great tool to have on hand so that when you have a little time, you can just send this out to folks or even hand deliver it to them to see if they can support your farm to ECE programming. And remember, you can use that resource mapping worksheet that we did earlier to help define who you reach out to first. Also, don't forget, don't sleep on public libraries. A lot of public libraries have seed catalogs or seed banks. You can go to your public library and see if you can't get seeds from them. And then also, I think Angel was talking about this earlier. You can go to local nurseries, local plant nurseries, big box stores like Lowe's, Walmart, and ask them for donations. Sometimes they will give donations to local schools in the area. Okay. Those are some ideas for getting funding support for your programming. Here are some available grants for y'all. Again, they're all underlined. So when I send this to you, all you got to do is navigate over to this page and you can click, and these are hyperlinks. The Fruit Tree Planting Foundation, Johnny Seeds is great. If you reach out to Johnny Seeds, they'll send you some free swag and seeds. They're great. So True Seeds, they have a 20% discount, and they have a yearly donation program that opens November 30th. This is something one of my teachers used to do, milkweeds for schools and nonprofits. That opens early October. You get a free flat of 32 milkweed plugs. And the best part about milkweed is that it is the primary food source for monarch butterflies. So while it might not be food for your kids, it's still something great to put in your pollinator garden. And you can have that science lesson about the circle of life for pollinators. And then kidsgardening.com, they often have grant opportunities for folks. And those range, I mean, I've seen them from $250 to $5,000, right? So maybe you want to hop on one of those mailing lists and find that out. And then here's some other fundraising ideas. If you have a parent-teacher association or something like a PTA, you can get those families involved, right? You can get them involved. Maybe they want to be on a garden committee or a watering club. So you don't have to go out there on Saturdays and Sundays and in the evening, but you can hand that off to other people. Remember, delegating is a powerful, powerful tool. You could host bake sales, a yard sale, and you could earmark those proceeds from that event to go specifically to your farm to ECE programming, right? Maybe, people love to give money when they know what they're giving it to. Maybe you have a bake sale or a yard sale specifically for some raised beds or specifically for a tower garden. You can host an event with a local restaurant if possible. A lot of chain restaurants, where if you live in bigger areas where you have access to chain restaurants, they will host a night where like 10 or 20% of the proceeds within a certain number of hours will go towards whatever you're fundraising for. So maybe you could have an event. Maybe you could do an auction or a raffle and use the proceeds there to fund your farm to ECE programming. You could do a plant sale. We did this at my school where the kids started the plants in the classroom. And then once those plants were getting going, it was still early springtime yet. They'd started them indoors and we sold the plants, I think about $2 or $3 a plant. And we sold them mostly to our families and grandparents, that kind of thing. But that was a great little starter fund to purchase some items. You can ask for seed donations from folks. And you can also crowdsource. So if you serve a community where some folks have a little additional income, maybe you want to start a little GoFundMe, or, route everybody to your organization's PayPal and say, hey, we're trying to raise $200, $500, $1,000 to support our garden. And then that is dog-eared money just for you to use and for your team to use when you're thinking about your long-term gardening plans. Okay, y'all, just a reminder again, our next virtual lesson number 2 of the Mississippi Farm to ECE Institute, is local food purchasing and procurement. Okay, we're going to be talking about the CACFP. We'll be talking about local farmers. We'll be talking about menus and menu building, what that looks like. That is going to be on April 16th. From 3 to 4:30 on Zoom. For those of you that register and attend in person, you will get a certificate. And we'll send out a recording and links to resources after, so that you can access those and share them with your networks. So keep that in mind. Make sure you save that on your calendar. And then every October, the Mississippi Farm to School Network, along with many, many, many of our partners, including the National Farm to School Network, we celebrate the Farm to School Week Challenge. And October is Farm to School Month. All right. So what we do during this month, or, throughout the month, it's available, but we do have a specific week where we ask you to do the challenge. A lot of schools are following fall break during this week in the past. So we just ask you to join the challenge when you're able and school is back in session. But we invite you to dig in and give one of the following challenges a try. Okay. So the procurement challenge, you could buy just one locally grown food, feature it on your menu for a week, and then host a farmer to join in on a taste test fun or some other event, right? You could do the garden challenge, where you host a lesson in your school garden and you provide cooking demonstrations using local foods. This is fun. This is a super, super exciting thing to see. And you can also use all kinds of stuff to make this fun with the kids. Or you could combine both the procurement, remember that's one of the pillars of Farm to ECE, and the garden, one of the other pillars of Farm to ECE challenges, to do the Supreme Challenge. All right. So you feature locally grown food, you host a farmer to join in on the fun, you do a cooking demonstration with local food. We love to see it all, right? So we want to invite y'all to consider doing this with us every October. In 2025 alone, we had over 18,000 student participants, and we're hoping to beat that number for this year. So stay tuned for us. If you're not subscribe to our newsletter yet, you can keep up to date, and then we'd love to see you participating in the challenge. Again, here's some resources for y'all. Now, we have resources sprinkled throughout this presentation, but these are some that I just wanted to put all in one fell swoop on one page. And these include 4 Steps to Cultivating a School Garden. That's a guide that really informed a large part of this presentation. The Mississippi School Garden Network Facebook group. That's a link to our Facebook group. If you have Facebook, it's a place where you can connect with educators and share ideas and learn from one another. This is one of my babies, the Garden Books for Young Children list. We have a long list of books that you can purchase, most of which are like under $3, none of which we've sourced from Amazon. And you can purchase these books online, and all of them center some form of a gardening theme, right? And you can use these to supply in your classrooms for circle time, reading time, whatever, to get your teachers and your kids excited about learning. And we've got lots of different categories for these books, where we want to make sure that we are being mindful about representation. So you can find books that have Black, Asian American, white, Hispanic, Native American children at the center of the story, so that they are representative of the communities you serve. If you need menu help, this is another one of my babies. You can check out by clicking this hyperlink once you get these resources. Our farm fresh menus, we are working to develop over 24 weeks of farm fresh, budget forward, farm forward menus. And all of them have been, all of the ones that have been published so far have been approved by both the Child and Adult Care Food Program and the Mississippi State Department of Health. So they're ready to go. And then if you have any questions about the CACFP, hosting field trips, or anything else, you can contact us. I've got my contact information there on the right. You can also check us out on Instagram and Facebook. And of course, you can go over to our website, MississippiFarmToSchool.org, to find out events and more that we host. If you've still got your smartphone available, you can pull that out and scan this QR code to sign up for our newsletter. We'd love to have you. Mary Jo on the call is amazing and puts together a monthly newsletter with grants and all kinds of events and other opportunities that are relevant to many, many, many of you and your work. We try not to bother you too much, but we do try to uplift our events and resources. So if you want to sign up for the newsletter, you aren't getting it yet, we'd love to have you. If you don't want to sign up for the newsletter, but you do want to keep up with us, make sure you follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And then keep that website close, okay? All right, y'all. Now, before you go, I want you to know that I absolutely welcome your questions. I'd love to hear from you. You can ask them in the chat or you can ask them off mic. I hope that you've gotten something out of this virtual lesson number 1. And I want to thank all of you for attending, for making this time, this lengthy time, to join me today. I'll be sending resources and certificates in the next few days to y'all, so be on the lookout in your email. And I'll be staying online for the next 5 minutes in case anybody has any questions for me. If you don't have any questions right now, but some come up in the future, please feel free to reach out to me at eddie@mississippifarmtoschool.org. I appreciate all you do, and I'm so grateful that our kids have access to lovely grown-ups like you all. I am here to help and support you, as is my whole team. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves, and looking forward to hearing updates about your gardens. Take care, everybody.
This is Nancy. A quick question. What is CSA again?
Oh, good question. I realized that I wasn't clear about that. A CSA, it's short for Community Supported Agriculture.
Okay.
But usually what it is it's shorthand for a program where maybe a farm or multiple farmers grow produce, and then they put that produce in like a box. So, maybe that's like, it depends on the season, but maybe it's like 5 sweet potatoes and a bunch of different mustard greens or collard greens. And then if you participate in the CSA, you can get that box maybe once a month or once a week at the frequency you choose, so that you can cook with local food.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I used to do it at my ECE program. We participated in a CSA that was led by a farm called Native Sun out of Tupelo, Mississippi. And it was a really great way for us to supplement our lunch program. But also we did a lot of like taste tests with our older students with the CSA. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And one other question,
Yeah.
the hydroponic garden,
Mm-hmm.
how feasible is that for us in ECE?
Oh, very.
I'm very interested.
Yes, it is. Have you ever seen them?
I haven't.
Okay, let me pull up a picture. They look like something out of space, which sounds wild, but Miss Nancy, they grow all year round.
Uh-huh.
and they are so prolific. Now, I'm just pulling up one version of this. We've used tower gardens in the past, but I'm going to show you this picture. Yeah, they're great. They don't take much. I mean, you do have to learn how to set them up and care for them, but once you got them going, they're going. Can you see this?
No, not right now.
Okay, I'm gonna. Maybe it's
Okay,
still.
now we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Do you
Okay.
see that? So what you're doing is in each of these little holes, you've got this kind of mossy material that serves as the base for where your plant grows out of. And it's connected to a tube that runs all the way down to this black base here that has like water, minerals, all kinds of stuff, right?
Okay.
And it's pumped. They pump the water and minerals all through the top of this tower into each of these little holes to feed the plants. Okay. And then the plants just grow. And it comes with a light, right? A light source. So you can just program it and just let it go. And then a lot of ECE programs have these in their cafeterias. So their cafeteria workers can build salads or, garnish pizzas, that sort of thing, by just walking over to the tower garden and harvesting. And then it just keeps growing, and it's year round.
Oh, wow, that's wonderful.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
really cool.
All
And,
right.
because you're participating in Sprouts this year, y'all would have some funds to be able to purchase one of these. If you need it.
Okay, great. We're interested.
Yeah, they're great. And then some folks that are absolutely very well versed, much more so than myself, in tower gardens are Dr. Alicia Stapp and Dr. Kenya Wolf, who head up the Department of Early Childhood at the University of Mississippi. And they have developed an entire hydroponics user guide. So, they'd be a great resource if you ended up purchasing one for getting started.
You want to plan some multimedia when spring get here?
Mm-hmm. Hi,
That
Edie.
would be great.
Yeah.
Do you have a resource for the CSAs or like a list of?
Yeah, actually, that list, the Mississippi Farmers Map, we have some CSAs on there. Let me pull that back up for you, okay?
Okay.
So that way you can, all you have to do is scan it. Y'all, I'm trying to figure it out. All you have to do is scan the QR code, and it'll take you to our map, and there are some CSAs on there. Okay. Let's see. How quickly can I get back there? I don't know.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and they're great. They often you're not able to get enough food to provide for one whole meal for your whole program, but they're great for taste tests. If you want to do a taste test or a cooking demonstration, participating in a CSA is where it's at.
Okay. All right. Well, sounds fun. Well, I've enjoyed everything.
Yeah, I'm just so happy that you've been able to participate with us.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, I hope to hear from you guys soon.
Yeah, I've just got the QR code to our farms map up here. If you want to scan that or take a picture of it with your phone, you could jump on that farms map and see all the different CSAs that we've been able to capture so far.
Okay. Gotcha. Got it. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care. Thanks for joining.
All right. Bye-bye.
Sweetheart,
Bye.
where's
Good
the
luck.
link
Bye-bye.
for
Thank
the
you.
survey?
Bye. I see someone named Zoom user. Could you tell me your name so I could get you a certificate?
So, Miss Edie, where's the survey? Where can we access that?
Emma Jones.
Hi there. What's your name, my love?
Emma Jones. I'm the Zoom user.
Hi, Zoom user Emma Jones.
I know what. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Thanks for joining us. How are you doing?
Sure. Good. Doing good.
Good. Well, I'm glad I got your name so I can send you a certificate, okay? You've been here the whole time.
Yes, I have. And thanks for the information.
You're so welcome.
All
You're so
right.
welcome. If you ever need any help, you just let me know, okay?
Okay, thank you.
You, of course. Take care.
And this was really great. I've learned a lot.
Oh, I'm so happy. I'm
Yes.
glad to know that.
Yeah, the companion planting. I wondered what we could do, but that's great.
Yes, that kind of blew my mind when I learned about
Right.
companion planting. It's a
Yeah.
great way to keep it safe, right?
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much. It was very
Yeah,
enjoyable.
of course.
Okay.
Thanks for joining. Take
All
care,
right.
okay?
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Miss Edie, this is Miss Thelma. Can you tell me where we can access the survey?
The survey. Which survey are you talking about,
I
Miss Bell?
thought you said that there was a survey we needed to fill out or something. There's nothing we need to fill
Oh,
out.
you know what? I think I had something about a survey, but no, y'all have been here for 4 hours. I'm not going to make you fill out a survey. Y'all are good. I've already tracked your names. You'll be getting a certificate.
Thank you so much, sweetheart.
You're welcome. Take care.
You too.
All right, everybody. It's sounding like we don't have any more questions. So I am going to end the call. And of course, I'll be sending these resources and recording to you ASAP. So stay on the lookout for that and your certificates via email. Thank you all so much for prioritizing this knowledge share and coming together on this Thursday. I look forward to seeing y'all April 16th for virtual lesson number 2. Take care, everybody, and good luck in your farm to ECE planning.